Part 18. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 171. Chapter 171. Just clean it up. Almost any social software has media attributes. The media represents a channel for speaking out and the right to speak. Li Yuan can do without others, but he must not lose his right to speak. So far, his right to speak is still in the hands of others. If they don't like him, they will directly reject him. When it comes to messing with him, no one will say hello to him in advance. No one knows anyone. Just because you affect my interests, I will do something to you. It's as simple as that. For example, the code for Qingtian mixed small and medium caps cannot be found on many platforms. For example, XX Securities, XX Bao, XX Huatong. The money in the capital market is limited. For every 100 billion, their platforms will only absorb 3 to 5 billion, and what they earn is these 3 to 5 billion in intermediary fees. Even if the profit is tens of thousands of yuan, they will not let it go. They are all playing like this with you, Li Yuan, and they are drinking the northwest wind. This is the most fundamental contradiction. Li Yuan has no intention of reconciling with them, although he doesn't care about spending millions and tens of millions more to feed those platforms. Bixen started from the companion platform, and its traffic instantly exceeded the sum of all other companion platforms combined. The kind who make millions a day. There is actually only one reason that makes Bixen and more popular. Licking the dog really works here. If you are a licking dog on other social platforms, what can you do with money? I could only watch the person I was licking buying things and going shopping with my boyfriend. But on the Bixen platform, when you act like a licking dog, those women really play games with you and chat with you. Once you find that you have advantages, you may be able to win. It doesn't matter whether she's Xiao Biluo or not. People on the internet remove all kinds of filters, and it doesn't necessarily mean that someone's Xiao Biluo has a good figure. Many social interactions come with a cost. Putting the cost on the table is unparalleled for otakus. Moreover, the node where Bixen was blocked is also very important. It was removed from the shelves in November 2020, and then again in 2021, and was directly blocked for a whole year. There's no after that. The opportunity to seize the traffic high ground was completely lost. Ask Li Yuan why he knows so well? Because he had just graduated at that time and had not even passed his internship period. He was trapped at home and always had to find some way out. I couldn't find a suitable partner to make videos, so I could only earn some money by playing with them. In order to attract those women, I post photos of myself privately every day. With a few relatively large tonnage little rich women, he can earn more than 20,000 yuan a month. This is very rare among male escorts. You can encounter a lot of social scams and live broadcast scams in other places, but in Bixen, they are almost non-existent. If you follow the rules honestly, there will be no limit to how you can be deceived. I won't let you check Carnival and WeChat, then turn around and block you. The initiative of social networking lies in the hands of users, not in the hands of so-called goddesses who can't tell whether they are human or ghost. This year is the second year since Bixen was established. Currently, the main way to attract traffic is to find game anchors to attract traffic. 2019 was the real outbreak period, and it ended up being an outbreak for 1 year, and then it was over. For a platform with 35 million registered users and more than 3 million daily active users, no one except WeChat can achieve this kind of active ratio. Li Yuan didn't want to do the layout by himself. It wouldn't cost much to accept the current Bixen. Their angel round is only 10 million, and their series around next year will only be 100 million. Of course, if the premium is too high, Li Yuan will definitely not agree. Being optimistic doesn't mean it's necessary, there are many options to choose from. He even knows the operating model and can spend money to create one himself. After all, we don't have any friendship, so there's no way to negotiate a premium. The Bixen mode is not advanced, but the user quality is extremely high. Several million people can generate revenue of 1.2 billion, which is data only those shopping platforms have. After Li Yuan made arrangements, he returned home. At 4:30, the driver was asked to pick up Xu Yanlin at the school gate. Half an hour later, Xu Yanlin came. When Li Yuan opened the door, Xu Yanlin was a little shy and lowered her head. "It's not like I've never seen him before. Why are you so shy?" Li Yuan didn't put on his shirt because he had just taken a shower. Although he has no abdominal muscles, his overall figure is relatively strong and he has a handsome figure. "Come here for 20 yuan today, and then we'll have dinner together, and then I'll ask the driver to take you to school." Li Yuan lay down while talking. Xu Yanlin was not allowed to continue spending the night here. After all, Xu Yanlin was different from him. If she did not return to the dormitory for a long time, others would criticize her. "Senior, there are also free services," Xu Yanlin reminded Li Yuan. In fact, she is also very greedy for Li Yuan. "The kind that makes you drool. I really wanted to do something in the middle of the night, but I was afraid of waking up Li Yuan. I don't want that, I owe it for the time being. I will make up for it when I have the opportunity on Saturday and Sunday." "Oh, okay, then I'll start." Li Yuan soon began to enjoy the soreness, especially in his back. There are many nerves in the back, and they are most noticeable when pressed. But it didn't take long for that feeling to turn into a slippery one. The slipperiness is even more addictive. He closed his eyes and did not expose Xu Yanlin's little tricks. "I'm just confused, where did this girl see this? Think about it, you really are nothing." I even started to feel guilty. It's hard for him to feel this way. "Do you find the university courses difficult?" he asked. "Well, it's okay. Have you ever considered changing your major? With your grades, it shouldn't be difficult. There's nothing to learn in the finance major." He didn't make it too obvious. With Xu Yanlin's character, it would be difficult for her to develop in this area. Financial tycoons are actually very few normal people. Look at Shen Tianfu and Lu Shangyuan. People who play with money are always ruthless and disregard the rules. How could the little white rabbit compete with the wolves for food? She would only become the food of the wolves. As for doing odd jobs, you obviously have such a strong learning ability, but do you want to do odd jobs? It's a pure waste of resources. Xu Yanlin asked, "What does the senior think is better for me to learn? I can actually learn it together." "It's not what I think, it's what you think. Whatever you think is more beneficial to your future, just go and learn it. Then I will study medicine." "Ah. Why? If the senior doesn't agree, forget it." No, I'm just asking." Li Yuan will never express an opinion on this matter. "Because I persuade people to study medicine, there will be thunder and lightning." Xu Yanlin thought for a while and said, "Because I think it will be useful to seniors after studying medicine. I'm in good health. Besides, medicine is a very complex subject. Even the doctor himself can't guarantee that there will be no problems with his body." "How can you guarantee it?" "I just need to focus on one direction." "Which direction?" Kidney." "Li Yuan. I don't have kidney failure. What on earth is this girl thinking?" Xu Yanlin said seriously, "Senior, I owe you so much. If you are not in good health, when can I pay it back?" Li Yuan turned over and asked, "Are you here to work to pay off debts or are you here to claim your life?" Pay off the debt, he. Drooling again. At 6:30, Li Yuan sent Xu Yanlin away. I also got into working mode. I haven't written a manuscript for Wen Yuxian during this period of time. I have to make up for it when I feel better. But not long after, I suddenly received a call from Zhang Yuling. What did you take Xu Yanlin to do? Li Yuan frowned after hearing this and said, what's wrong? The girl in the class said she didn't come back last night and was picked up by a car after class today. She kept gossiping about her. I saw the photo and you are driving that car now. After all, Li Yuan got his car from Zhang Yuanqiao, so it was not surprising that Zhang Yuling recognized it. Oh, I picked it up to deal with some things. Don't ruin her reputation. There are already some bad rumors. Teacher Zhang, are you starting to make up your own mind again, right? Is it a problem for me to help her with some household chores with her friends? I'm sorry, husband. Li Yuan. I can't stand it. Why is this Zhang Yuling so clingy now? Teacher Zhang, actually, Xu Yanlin slept at my place last night. Sure enough, Zhang Yuling broke his guard. Li Yuan also knew that he shouldn't say this, but he just didn't want Zhang Yuling to be too clingy. He knew where he would end up in 3 years. As long as Zhang Yuling's attitude towards his parents remained unchanged, he would basically not run away. But now he really can't bear it. Zhang Yuling remained silent, and Li Yuan said, actually, Zhang Yuling immediately said, I know, you are doing her a favor, and I think it's great that you are so warm-hearted. The school is so inhumane, and they turn off the lights and lock the door when they go to college. Anyway, you must be there, there's a room available, right? Hey, hubby, you are great. I have something else to do, so I'll hang up now. Li Yuan hung up the phone. He does have an empty room, but no quilt. In order not to cause trouble for him, Zhou Ranran left him the sheets and quilts in the master bedroom. The other rooms looked unoccupied. Zhang Yuling may also know, but she doesn't want to face this reality, so she simply makes up a scene in her head. Maybe it's to save face, or maybe it's to deceive your own brain. After thinking for a while, Li Yuan sent another message to Zhang Yuling. Let's have a meal together tonight, hot pot. Okay. Zhang Yuling replied quickly. Li Yuan felt a little more comfortable. Maybe he had the same idea as Zhang Yuling, to do something to trick his brain and seek a kind of psychological comfort. Then he began to write the manuscript. I finished writing the manuscript around 8 o'clock, and then sent it to Wen Yuxian, and the two briefly chatted. They appear to be a couple, but in fact their relationship is worse than that of ordinary friends. Wen Yuxian rarely took the initiative to talk to him. Apart from publishing articles, he would never go to Wen Yuxian. I have to say that this kind of tacit understanding is rare. After checking the time, he sent Zhang Yuling another message. Originally, he planned to go out after 8 o'clock, but Zhang Yuling said that he was still working overtime and had something to do. In this way, it was not until 9 o'clock that Zhang Yuling said she wanted to go out. Li Yuan asked the driver to pick her up at the school gate. Then, it was the same time as last night, the same place, and even the same waiter. And Zhang Yuling also eats a lot. Teacher Zhang, there is no power outage in your apartment and the door is not locked. Seeing that it was almost 11 o'clock, Li Yuan gave a kind reminder. Zhang Yuling was so full that he still had ink marks there. Zhang Yuling smiled awkwardly and said, it's mainly because I'm afraid of walking on that section of the road. I'm timid, so. As if she was afraid that Li Yuan wouldn't believe it, she added, as you know, that apartment building is very old and very remote. It's eerie everywhere and it's really scary at night. A man who casually pulls out a gun and blows someone's head off within a second actually says he's afraid of walking at night. As for the destructive weapons on your body, the Lord of Hell will have to take a detour when he sees it. Then shall I go back with you? Zhang Yuling. She suddenly thought of something, picked up her bag, and looked through it. Oh, I was in a hurry to go out today and forgot to pick up the key. I can only go to the building manager and during the day tomorrow to find a spare key to open the door. At this time, the building manager is asleep. Li Yuan. There is no building manager in your shabby apartment. Then go to the hotel. The hotel is unhygienic. Then I'll take you home. Grandpa is already asleep. What should I do if I wake him up? He is a light sleeper as he gets older. If he wakes up, he may not be able to sleep all night. Li Yuan spread his hands and said, "Let's go." Where to go? Nonsense. You just said you wanted to go home with me, where else could you go? Zhang Yuling got what he wanted. After paying the bill, he immediately ran over and hugged Li Yuan's arm. Li Yuan didn't know what the waiter was thinking, but there was something wrong with his eyes. Fortunately, this is a society ruled by law, otherwise Li Yuan would not dare to go out. He's too handsome and gets beaten easily. After getting in the car, Li Yuan and Zhang Yuling arrived home in 10 minutes. Zhang Yuling silently remembered the address here. But soon she discovered that an access card was required to enter the place, and an access card was required to get on the elevator. Special access control only allowed access to specific floors. When she got off the elevator, she immediately looked to the other side. There seems to be another house. If you rent it yourself. What are you looking at? Over here. Li Yuan reminded. Oh, it's coming, it's coming. After entering the room, it seemed very empty. But she vaguely smelled some special fragrance. A scent that men rarely have. Li Yuan said, "You insisted on coming, are you disappointed now?" "No, it looks like no one else lives here." "Yes, no one really lives here, so I only have one room here that can accommodate people." Zhang Yuling immediately went to check several rooms, and the result was exactly what Li Yuan said. "Did you put away the quilt and other things when you got up in the morning?" Li Yuan, "No, if you don't believe me, look for it and see if you can find the second quilt." Zhang Yuling was standing there, almost crying. "No. You must have packed it away. It's in a certain closet. You just packed it away." "Right. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it." Author, Lao He. Chapter 172. Li Yuan took a deep breath and finally said, "Yes, I took care of it." This kind of inexplicable emotion is very uncomfortable. "Hey, hubby." Zhang Yuling smiled and was about to give him a hug. Then Li Yuan tried to hide but couldn't. "Hiss, it hurts, my body hurts." "Then let's go to bed. You can sleep, but don't move around." "Okay." After a while, Zhang Yuling found that Li Yuan really didn't move at all when he was sleeping, and he felt more at ease. "Even if I slept here last night, it would be nothing. Anyway, Li Yuan is of no use now." Li Yuan woke up the next day and found Zhang Yuling still beside him. He asked, "Why didn't you go to school?" "I'm not a teacher, but the school wanted me to teach as a substitute, but I refused." "She has no job at all now. After finishing her job a year ago, she asked for leave from school and went home to give birth to her child." "What about the graduate program? Will it affect it?" "Zhang Yuling will graduate from graduate school next year, and she is about to give birth at that time, so there is a high probability that she will not have the opportunity to complete her graduation thesis and defend it. Next year will be the first year of the terrifying Tianlin, and the graduation defense meeting will reach hellish levels. It should be possible to extend it for 1 year. I'll ask the school then. If it doesn't work, forget it. Anyway, I don't have high academic aspirations." The reason why she took the postgraduate entrance examination was because she had not found her life goal and wanted to stay in school for a few more years. Without Li Yuan, she would most likely continue studying for a Ph.D. Li Yuan thought for a while, and theoretically graduate students could delay their graduation, especially when giving birth to children, and special care would be taken. After he exercised, he went to the company. Zhang Yuling didn't want to leave at all, so he continued to stay at home. It probably means, I want the key. Tuesday was uneventful. For Li Yuan, the main thing he did was to clear some stocks. There is also a list of the funds redeemed yesterday, totaling 1.98 billion. Li Yuan took a look at the net value of the fund. 3.4611, at 3.2%. Because of the short position yesterday, the net value dropped a bit. Otherwise, Li Yuan could have used the billions of funds from yesterday's short position to continue doing it. No matter what happened, he would still be able to earn tens of millions more, and his net worth would not be that low. But that's just the beginning. Li Yuan directly took out 2.6 billion from the fund today, of which 1.98 billion is for redemption, and more than 600 million is the company's recent revenue from management fees and subscription fees. At the same time, all the billions of principal invested by the company at the beginning will be cleared tomorrow. So today, he has to withdraw about 5 billion more funds. When the business was over, he sat in the office for a while and sent a message to Xu Yanlin. There's no need to come over today, I'm busy recently. Well, okay, senior, you can call me whenever you are free. Okay. Xu Yanlin must have known that someone at school was gossiping about her, but she didn't say a word. I sent back some messages and got today's net worth. For the first time in a month and a half, it fell below 3.5441, at 2.4%. What started out as 1 billion has now become 3.544 billion. More than 4 billion will be credited to the company's account tomorrow. This is his income in 2.5 months. There was almost no idle day, and I encountered some minor problems along the way, but overall it was pretty good. Guo Meng understands the situation very well. It is a good thing for her to have less funds. If it drops to 40 to 50 billion, the pressure will be much less. Soon, Wednesday arrived. Early in the morning, Li Yuan said to Zhang Yuling, I may come back late tonight, why don't you leave? Song Jiajia is here. He has made a reservation tonight and treats Song Jiajia to dinner. Zhang Yuling immediately said, are you busy with work? No, the general manager of Jushin Media has resigned. I'm going to treat her to a meal. I won't be back until after 10 o'clock. Do you want to come with me? Zhang Yuling quickly waved his hand and said, no, I can't disturb you about your work. I will go back to school later. She has contacted the agency and asked the agency to rent a house in this community for her. It would be best if she could rent the room opposite Li Yuan. However, I need to find the agent, and I haven't responded yet. She also knows that being clingy is a bit annoying, but she is really happy. She would never disturb Li Yuan's work, as that would be more than just annoying. Then I'll ask the driver to take you off later. Husband. Oh, it's okay. Zhang Yuling hesitated to speak, but finally buried his head in eating. Li Yuan took out the access card and placed it in front of Zhang Yuling. I just made a copy of the access card from the property management company. You can come anytime you want in the future. Don't even think about renting a house. Why waste that money? Zhang Yuling was exposed and said a little embarrassedly, how did you know I was renting a house? The agent told me that the agent I rented a house from before contacted me and said that he was willing to rent this house at a high price and asked me if I wanted to resell it and make a fortune. You can almost buy a house with such a generous amount. Hey, I just want to be closer to my husband, so I don't disturb my husband's work. Living here won't affect my work. After Li Yuan finished speaking, he went out. With another person at home, he can have breakfast at home. Just experience life after marriage in advance. Anyway, he has nothing recently, and Xu Yanlin won't let her come over. When Song Jiajia woke up in the morning, she saw that the people at home were a little unhappy. Because there are some problems currently. Originally, the family's imagination of the listing scene was inversely proportional to the current stock price trend. The stock price has been falling for 9 consecutive days. At its peak, the market value reached more than 20 billion, and now it is unbalanced and is down to more than 5 billion. A company with an annual net profit of RMB 400 million has a market capitalization of just over RMB 50 billion, and pig farming is a relatively popular subject. The valuation given by the capital market broke their understanding. She looked at her father sighing and said, "Dad, don't worry too much. I know a junior student who told me before that these are normal, and temporary ups and downs are nothing." Song Dalong said, "Don't comfort me. I have already asked a special person and said that the stock has lost its liquidity, no funds are willing to come in, and there will be no good market in the future. To put it bluntly, the entire stock structure is unhealthy. Without the support of large funds, there is no end to the decline due to complete market behavior. At present, the short orders of securities lending are making huge profits, and it is impossible for the stock price to rise again." Originally, the Song family was not short of money, they just wanted to go public to increase their value. Moreover, Song's shares are a family business. Many people are no longer satisfied with the annual dividend of 100 million. If they want to list the company, they can cash out the stocks they hold. There are many A-share stocks with high P/E ratios, and the performance of those companies is not bad either. The disadvantage is that there is no capital to support it. Without funds to support it, the company will almost lose its financing channels, and its desire to expand production becomes empty talk. It is impossible to raise funds in the market at the current valuation of 5 billion. If so, Song Dalong would rather throw away the company. He knew where he failed, and it just didn't matter. If he had strong capital connections, who would dare to short him? If he goes short, he will be killed. Of course, you shouldn't mortgage your shares to brokers. If you don't pledge 10% of your stocks to brokers, then brokers won't lend out those stocks, so there won't be that much short-selling funds, and the situation won't be so passive. Song Jiajia said hesitantly, "How about I ask that junior again? Let him help you think of a solution." She knows that Li Yuan is very powerful, and Qingtian Capital behind him is very popular now, and her father even talks about it. But after all, I am a little embarrassed. This kind of thing involves too many interests. If you are not a relative or a relative, let someone help you. Let's negotiate the price. Li Yuan's identity is sensitive, so he may not be willing to ask for it. Putting aside the price, I don't know how to repay such a huge favor. Although she didn't get paid at Jushin Media, she did it voluntarily, and she didn't feel that her job was worth a high salary, not even as high as a photographer. Song Dalong sighed and said, "Well, if I had known earlier, it would be better to just mortgage the company and put the money in that Qingtian mixed small and medium cap fund. It's too late to say anything now. The liquidity of stocks has been drained, and a basin of laundry detergent has been drained of water, leaving only foam, which will eventually dry up sooner or later. The value of their stocks will only get lower and lower. Unless someone is willing to refill the water. This is no small matter. It will cost at least 7 to 8 billion, maybe even more than 1 billion. So he didn't take what Song Jiajia just said to heart at all. She just graduated from college this year, and her juniors must still be college students. What's the use of expecting college students? Even the rich second generation cannot ask their families to help with money. Besides, why should people help? You can't shamelessly say it's a betrothal gift for Song Jiajia, right? Even though he is Song Jiajia's biological father, even though he has always felt that Song Jiajia is impeccable, has a sweet voice and a good temperament. But if he was asked to say without conscience that his daughter was worth hundreds of millions in betrothal gifts, he really couldn't say it. Song Jiajia consoled her, actually, it doesn't matter. There will still be opportunities in the future. It's not like our family is going to starve if we are poor. At least the pig farm makes enough money. Song Dalong shook his head, that's not how it works. The company has been listed, so others may hold a controlling stake. The operation of the entire company is not necessarily ours, and the profits must be distributed. Oh. Song Jiajia has not been exposed to these yet. In her eyes, listing is all about making a fortune, and she has not considered the risks involved. Seeing that Song Jiajia had specially dressed up today, Song Dalong asked, "Are you going to meet your junior brother?" "Yeah, aren't you going home?" "Just have a meal with him." Song Dalong said with a smile, "How about you continue to stay in Zhangzhou, wait a year or two, and take people home to see." "Ah. What are you looking at?" "Let's see how your junior fellow student looks and what his character is like." Song Jiajia. "Dad, have you misunderstood something? I have nothing to do with him." Song Dalong looked like someone who had come before and said, "I understand, I understand." Song Jiajia said helplessly, "Hey, comrade Song Dalong, you are really overthinking this time. I originally wanted to go home and inherit billions of assets, but now I have no assets to inherit, so I just want to help you find a rich son-in-law. To prevent you from being bullied in the financial market in the future. Didn't you introduce someone to me before? I'm going to ask him out to chat in a few days." Song Dalong suddenly frowned, "What nonsense are you talking about? No matter how good the family is, there is no shortage of food for you. I thought they were pretty good people before, so I wanted you to get to know them. Now that you have a better choice, how can you have such an idea? Go see your little boyfriend quickly, you don't have to worry about family matters. I repeat, not a boyfriend." Okay, I'm not my boyfriend. Go quickly. The market is open. Let me see how the market is today. Oh, let me get the car keys." Song Jiajia went back to the room. "I just got the car keys and before I went out, I suddenly heard a loud roar from outside. Oh ha ha ha." She hurried out and saw her father holding his cell phone and giggling over there. "Dad, what's wrong with you?" Song Dalong immediately ran over with his eyes full of joy, took his mobile phone and said to Song Jiajia, "Daughter, our family is in love, Qingtian Capital just raised the name of our company." Song Jiajia. "What do you mean?" "It's just that Qingtian Capital holds more than 5% of our company's shares, triggering the sign-raising line, and they just made an announcement." "Huh? Real or fake?" Song Dalong hurriedly took out the announcement page and said, "Look, Qingtian Capital not only issued an announcement, but also detailed the equity information it holds. They have already been buying in batches a few days ago. After the market opened today, we directly used 500 million to raise the stock price from the lower limit to the higher limit. We currently hold a total of 5.13% of our company's shares. Do it cost a lot of money? That's for sure. Even based on a market value of 5 billion, it's still more than 250 million. Besides, they entered the market a long time ago and spent more money. It should be at least 300 million. Oh." Song Dalong on the side was still immersed in this excitement, and kept talking, "Daughter, do you know how powerful Qingtian Capital is now? The weather vane of the entire market is the God in the hearts of all Christians, even those retail investors. I'm copying the work of Optimus Capital. Moreover, Optimus Capital has never held a placard for any company, and this is their first time. That's Li Yuan. The guy who tripled his figure in 2 months. Which stock investor in the country doesn't know Li Yuan's name? He is interested in our company and even held up a sign to show that our company is going to be prosperous. If you look again, our company's stock popularity has now become the first in the 2 cities, and countless retail investors are paying attention to our stock. Song Jia. Does that mean our company can be saved? More than just being saved, our family is going to make a fortune. Hurry up and meet your junior, and then go home and inherit the family business. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 173. Li Yuan himself did not expect that just raising a sign would make financial headlines. Perhaps the market is indeed too dull, and for various reasons, he has become a bellwether in the eyes of investors. The authorities are trying to use this incident to stimulate the stock market and allow capital to return to the market. Of course, it is not ruled out that capital itself is hyping up this topic and then tricking retail investors into entering the market so that they can continue to cut off retail investors. The reason why he raised the sign was simple: he didn't want Song's shares to fall on the eve of dawn. As long as it survives next year, pork stocks will usher in spring. No one is willing to buy a PE of more than 10 times now. When the PE of 100 times the year after next, the market will despise it as too small, and it should be rushed towards 200 times. If he doesn't take action, there is a high probability that Song's shares will not be able to survive next year and will be finished. The biggest fear in the capital market is that no one pays attention. And such desperate market conditions are also the most vulnerable to mergers and acquisitions. The sense of smell of many capitals is more sensitive than that of the market for several months. In order to grasp larger chips, they will concentrate the relevant chips as much as possible. Song's shares have no way to fall. Even if there is a bear market next year, the market value will not exceed 4 billion. With his current layout, even if he does nothing in the future, it will be easy to bring in 5 times the income in 2 years. If you do something else and operate it, it will be 10 times or 20 times easier. After all, Song's shares still have great potential. What if the net profit is 800 million? Calculated based on a PE of 100 times, the market value would be 80 billion. Is it difficult to increase profits by another 400 million? He can even spend the 400 million, or he can specifically solicit business for Song stock. After all, for every penny Song stock makes, he can earn 3 more points in the financial market. This is financial leverage. There are a lot of votes in the US stock market, that's how it works. When Wall Street decides to make a certain investment, they will try their best to get business from that company, and it is business with extremely high profit margins. For example, for a stock with us $4 billion, the normal annual net profit is only 100 million, which is 40 times the PE. But with the intervention of capital, they can easily have a net profit of 500 million. Even if they only give 30 times the PE, the market value will change from a market value of $4 billion to a market value of $15 billion. How much does it cost to make a profit of 500 million? How much money can be made by increasing the market value by more than 10 billion? Li Yuan looked at the funds he cleared out. Today he took away more than 4 billion, and there are still 10 billion left. This 10 billion is to cope with tomorrow. After the market closes today, Qingtian Capital will announce the change of fund manager. Currently, there are still 49 billion positions. We have reduced our positions by 20 billion in the past 3 days, otherwise the fund size should have exceeded 70 billion. However, Li Yuan had already hinted so clearly that even the last person to enter the game had made more than 60 points. If you don't run, you will lose money in the end and it has nothing to do with you. After closing at noon, he had dinner at the company. I had just gone to the office to take an hour's rest when I received a call from Wen Yuxian. Senior, are you not optimistic about the subsequent market? Wen Yuxian asked very directly. Huh? No. But I found that your fund has been reducing its position in the past 2 days, and it has dropped by a full 10 billion in 2 days. Li Yuan really didn't want to talk about the market on the phone. It would be okay to have a few words with Wen Yuxian in private, but it would have to wait until he officially steps down as fund manager. Even if an announcement is made this afternoon, he will try his best to help Guo Meng transition on Thursday and Friday to avoid a stampede on funds. No matter how bad things go, we can't let Guo Meng's net worth plummet on the first day he takes office, right? There were 2 days of excessive time, and then he didn't care about it. Senior sister, I don't provide consulting services here. Oh, when can I consult with the senior? Next week. It is not a secret that Li Yuan has reduced his position. You can see it on the fund homepage. However, Wen Yuxian could detect this from the position of reducing the position, and Li Yuan felt that she was quite powerful. You can also chat when you have time next week to broaden your horizons. Anyone's trading thinking can be learned from. Well, okay, then I'll be ready and waiting for you at any time, senior. Why does something sound wrong? After hanging up the phone, he closed his eyes and prepared to take a rest. As a result, Song Jiajia called again. He didn't answer and pretended he was at work. Because he probably knows what will be said on the phone. After all, others don't know her identity, and Song Jiajia will know it no matter how slow her reaction is. At about 12:50, he came to the trading room. Song's shares have become the hottest stock in the market today, but Li Yuan still has 200 million in funds lined up, and others who want to enter have no chance. Guo Meng sat next to him, and Li Yuan said, Manager Guo, you may face some large redemptions tomorrow, so you have to be mentally prepared. Guo Meng nodded, yes, I understand. Li Yuan continued, don't pay too much attention to it in the past few days, just verify your trading model. Also, if the market is good, it doesn't matter. If the market is bad, you still have to be responsible for the funds. Although we are a small and medium cap company, we don't say we can't hide in bank stocks. Guo Meng. I have also prepared Song shares for you. I will continue to increase my position in the next few days and strive to add another 100 million in funds. You will not have to worry about it in the future. Finally, I will teach you one more trick, which is guaranteed to help you reduce your risk by 1/3. Guo Meng became interested. This was the secret. She was ready to listen with expectation, and then Li Yuan said, remember to be short 35%. This is the minimum holding requirement for public funds. If the full position loses 5 points, the net value will fall by 5 points. But if 65% of the positions lose 5 points, the net value will only drop 3 points. Guo Meng had nothing to say. This seems to be a very useful trick indeed, but the question is, why does something seem wrong? Short position? If you earn 5 points, your net worth will only increase by 3 points. Profit and loss come from the same source. But why did Li Yuan only say that he had lost money? Fortunately, the market opened, and Li Yuan started to get busy. The main thing is to explain to Guo Meng his understanding of the hundreds of stocks he currently holds. Guo Meng especially admires Li Yuan's ability to judge funds at a glance at the trend. She has to look at it for a long time to analyze it and come up with a 60–70% analysis. The time is often wasted and the best entry point has been missed, making it difficult to grasp the market trend. After closing at 3 o'clock, Li Yuan returned to the office again. Yu immediately updated the official website information and pushed it in the app software. These are all requested by Li Yuan. On the push message page, the comment area exploded instantly. What? Damn it, Yuan Shen quits. What does it mean to exchange for a woman? Is there some pie deal behind it? Is she the daughter of a certain boss? Is she here to pick peaches? Can you stop the conspiracy theories? Qingtian capital belongs to Yuan Shen, who will pick his peaches. Have you been fooled all day long? Didn't you realize that this new fund manager is very beautiful? I invested 50,000 yuan, and now it has become 130,000 yuan. It doesn't matter even if this girl loses all her money, just treat it as a reward for the female anchor. Indeed, this appearance is enough to make a debut. Don't insult Guo Mang, okay? Among the female artists who debuted, which one doesn't live under heavy makeup and filters? Is Guo Mang so naturally good looking? If you buy a fund, you can meet a bunch of licking dogs, so I'm convinced. Don't you know where this Guo Mang is? She is notorious in the fund circle. She took over a fund a year before last and lost 50% in 1 month. She can no longer survive in the circle. Now Pai Yuan Shen is in charge. Just slip away, this fund manager is really untouchable. Holy shit, is this real or fake? The Black Widow of the fund industry. If you don't believe it, just search it up. The news about her is still there. By the way, at that time, there were a group of people who said they wanted to raise her. How come they were silent in the end? Li Yuan did not expect that after so long, Guo Meng's lethality was still so great. There is no doubt that after this news was announced, the fund suffered a large amount of redemptions instantly. Li Yuan was watching from the background. Those redeemed shares will have to wait until tomorrow to be confirmed, and will not be available until the day after tomorrow. Wen Yuxian even posted a video saying that she had cleared Qingtian mixed small and medium caps because Li Yuan was no longer a fund manager and she had always only invested in Li Yuan. This was not something Li Yuan ordered, it was something she figured out herself. I thought of going together with Li Yuan. Li Yuan originally wanted her to make a special video tomorrow to persuade some Christians to quit. In short, you can run as much as you can, and it is best to only have a few 100 million left in the end. Yu sorted out today's report and walked in. He was also confused when he saw the background data on Li Yuan's computer desktop. Good guy, you can't refresh it, everything is redeemed. Each order is basically hundreds of thousands, which is busier than $1 million live broadcast room. Boss, today's net worth data is out. He handed over the report. There is no doubt that today's net worth is ugly. 3.6065, add 1.76%. This can be regarded as the lowest single-day increase in net worth since Li Yuan started trading. 2.5 months ago, the fund's net value was 1. 2.5 months later, the fund's net value is 3.6. During this period, the market as a whole fell 5 points. In fact, most funds cannot outperform the market. Only some small-scale funds and fund managers with some tricks can do so. Or it's a fund whose subject matter just catches up with the market. It's okay, 2.5 months are over. Yu said, boss, your trading ability is something I have never seen before. Although I don't know why you suddenly left the position of fund manager, I guess you must have more important things to do. Well, I guess it will take a month. I will take a good rest during this month. Then my subordinates and everyone in the company are looking forward to the return of the boss, the king. Haha, I might have fallen into a pit. Li Yuan is not absolutely sure about trading us stocks. After all, the opponents over there are more ferocious and shameless. After all, the famous American double standard is something they played out. Those that are beneficial to them are called rules, and those that are detrimental to them can be abolished directly. To be more aggressive, 1 or 2 mistakes may ruin everything. Yu said nothing. He cannot pick up on the leader's modesty. If something really happens, the harder he praises, the harder he will be slapped in the face. Of course, he is not afraid of being slapped in the face or being angered. Who knows what emotions a leader feels? What if he took the failure out of his praise? Even if you don't express your anger, it will leave a bad impression on yourself. Therefore, He only praises the achievements he has already made, because they cannot be changed and cannot be overstated. Has Yu Chengguan contacted you recently? Li Yuan continued to ask. Yu immediately said, there is no contact. That's fine. While talking, Li Yuan turned on his mobile phone. Song Jiajia sent several messages, and he replied. Then he picked up his phone and left. Before leaving, tell Yu to confirm the redemption share as soon as possible tomorrow and then take it to the trading room. After getting in the car, he called Song Jiajia back. Senior sister, I'm sorry. I've been busy at the company and didn't see the phone call. Have you arrived in Zhangzhou now? I've already made a reservation. Will I pick you up now? Oh, you're at Jushin Media, right? Okay, I'll be there in about 20 minutes. After hanging up the phone, Li Yuan asked the driver to drive towards Jushin Media. After the car arrived at Jushin Media, he slowly walked out of it. My health has gotten better these days, and I don't have to grin when I walk. Presumably enough buffer every night? After all, although Zhang Yuling is not as buffered as Xu Yanlin, he still has some talent. Soon I met Song Jiajia. Wearing an apricot-colored hooded cardigan, underneath is a pair of tight jeans. Those long legs are so dazzling that people can't even open their eyes. You can even hang it on your body as a skull bag. When Li Yuan came, she was sorting out some documents. Senior, don't you need to organize these documents? Just leave them to others. Song Jiajia looked up and said, but I heard that you haven't found a suitable general manager yet. Already looking for it? Song Jiajia said, actually, there is no need to look for one. Jushin Media's demand for a general manager is not that big. Currently, all links are running smoothly. What did the senior say? No matter how good the car is, it must have a headband, and the general manager is the headband. The reason why it is not messy now is because the senior has been sorting it out. If there is no general manager, it will not take a few days. The entire Jushin Media is in chaos. Am I that important? Song Jiajia muttered to herself. It's important. In fact, the main reason why I haven't found a general manager is that I don't think it's suitable. Really? So you raised the Song Corporation's shares today, do you want me to stay? Huh? No, the company has changed its fund manager. I'm not sure about this matter. Song Jiajia. But if senior sister stays, of course I will welcome her. As a result, Song Jiajia said stubbornly, no, I want to go home for a blind date. If I can't find a boyfriend here, I will easily become a leftover girl. When Li Yuan heard this, he immediately said, are you going on a blind date? Yes. Then I'll make a call. Are you asking someone to sell Song's shares? She didn't know that she couldn't sell it within a short period of time after raising the sign. No, senior sister is going on a blind date and is expected to get married soon. I won't be able to go there then, so I will give senior sister a wedding gift in advance. Li Yuan has not found a new general manager. He just wants to wait until Song Jiajia returns to avoid feeling uncomfortable after meeting. After all, she occupied her position, and others were still paid, but she didn't even get paid. Maybe Song Jiajia won't be so stingy, but he always has to consider this factor. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 174. Song Jiajia is actually not the kind of narcissistic person. It's just that the gift Li Yuan gave this time was a bit too big. The friendship between her and Li Yuan, let alone 300 million yuan, even 30,000 yuan, is considered high. We didn't know each other at first, but later we worked together and got to know each other for a few months. At first, it was for the position of general manager. After all, with her status, no company wanted to do it anymore and let her be the general manager. In addition, She was not really short of money, so she joked about not wanting a salary. What happened this time inevitably made her have some doubts. Could it be that Li Yuan liked her? She swore that she was not narcissistic. But to be nice to someone, you always need a reason, right? So, she tentatively said that she would go back for a blind date to see how Li Yuan would react. As it turned out, this reaction was too normal. I go back for a blind date, and you still want to give me a wedding gift? Shouldn't he just get angry and say those domineering words? Junior, what gift are you planning to give? She asked if she was giving away a knife. Li Yuan said, it's just a decoration, which means having a son early. He was going to call Zhang Yuling and ask if the thing he took from home last time was still there. It's not expensive, only about 800 yuan, mainly because it has a good meaning. Zhang Yuling said that his mother saw it when she was shopping in the mall. She bought several at once and kept them all at Zhang Yuling's place. Song Jiajia recalled some previous events and found that Li Yuan seemed to already have a girlfriend. In other words, I am indeed overthinking this matter. Junior, there's no need to go to such trouble, I won't go on a blind date. Huh? In order to avoid causing trouble to me, you didn't even go on a blind date. No, my blind date fell into the river. Well, I won't go. Li Yuan looked at Song Jiajia talking seriously and said with a smile, being on a blind date with you is really a high-risk profession. It's just his own carelessness. It has nothing to do with me. Come on, let's go eat quickly. I have to come back to work after dinner. What work? Jushin Media has accumulated a lot of work here. But didn't senior sister say she wanted to go back to her hometown? The blind date is dead, why are you going back? Stay for a few more days, and I'll wait until you find a new general manager before I leave. Li Yuan. Half an hour later, the two arrived at the restaurant. It was only a little after 6 o'clock at this time. After sitting down, Song Jiajia still couldn't help but ask, you really don't know about the Song's shares? Don't hide it from me and give me benefits. I can't afford it. Li Yuan picked up his mobile phone, pretended to take a look at Song's shares, and said, it's indeed a good buy. The market is very good. It's just that the market value of the stock is too low. They raised the sign accidentally. It's a normal operation. If it were me, I would enter today. Senior, how about going to Qingtian Capital tomorrow and asking? I don't care about that right now. The new fund manager has been operating this week. They think they've got the buying point, so they don't need to explain anything to me. Oh, no matter what, I still have to thank my junior, otherwise my dream of being a rich woman will be shattered. I must treat you to this meal today. Song Jiajia felt that she needed to learn some financial knowledge. She has never been interested in these things, and she doesn't know how to teach them at home. After all, although her family is rich, all of her children are actually free-range. Several of my cousins didn't even go to high school. Senior sister, don't you have no salary? Oh, my dad transferred some money to me. He originally wanted me to treat someone to dinner during the blind date, but now I can't do it, so I'll just invite my junior. Then I have to thank your blind date for falling into the river. Haha. The meal went faster than expected because I skipped a few farewell moments. Therefore, Li Yuan returned home at around 8 o'clock. Zhang Yuling was not here, which had to be said, which surprised him. It's just that this accident didn't last long. At around 9 o'clock, Zhang Yuling came over and brought some of his own luggage. The longer I stay with Zhang Yuling, the more I realize that she is actually a person with character flaws. However, there seemed to be few normal people around him. Zhou Ranran was not normal, Xu Yanlin was not normal, and Zhang Yuling was not normal either. After all, how could a normal person win it so smoothly, let alone take the initiative to back it up? People like Wen Yuxian and Song Jiajia have a complete outlook on life, and their souls will not be touched by certain things. Even romance can only be used as a tonic for them. Time, companionship, and sincerity are what they value most. There is no shortage of money, and he is not a family bargaining chip, so he will not make emotional compromises easily. Of course, the premise is that they also like it. Zhang Yuling sat next to Li Yuan and said, "I called my mother. She said that the village was already planning a house and asked me if I should follow the drawings or redesign it myself. Do you want a redesign?" Li Yuan didn't build any classical style villas at the beginning, but modern style villas. The overall structure was relatively simple, with a uniform 3.5-story structure. Only some buildings with special functions are taller. I want to redesign the interior to be more friendly to the elderly. Okay, you can design it however you want. Then send the drawings to my dad and ask him to help make changes. Then I want to go back tomorrow, is that okay? Li Yuan. Zhang Yuling is addicted to his hometown. When other people find girlfriends, they either rely on themselves to cheat, or rely on themselves to be handsome, or rely on their talents and money. Own. Rely on your hometown? Then I'll ask the driver to take you off tomorrow. Let me know in advance when you'll be back. Zhang Yuling just likes lively places, so it's best if someone at home can always pay attention to her. Otherwise, she would be like before, condensing all her personality and becoming a cold person. Even though he lived on Zhang Yuan Qiao's side, Zhang Yuling did not have a strong sense of family because of his limited energy and the fact that he was a generation apart and had difficulty sharing many ideas. But it's completely different in Li Yuan's hometown. Husband, do you feel better? It's better. Is that okay? It feels very strange to be with Zhang Yuling. If there are outsiders around, I will be like the follower of a cold lady. But if there were only two of them, Zhang Yuling would turn into a clingy little cat in an instant. And she has some mental problems. It seems that the angrier you are, the happier she is. And she didn't really want to, she was just trying to please Li Yuan as much as possible. Early on Thursday morning, Li Yuan asked the driver to take Zhang Yuling back to his hometown, and then he took a taxi to the company. Today is Guo Meng's first day in office. But when he went to the company and saw the redemption amount yesterday, he was shocked. A full 16 billion? The 10 billion he prepared before was not enough. Guo Meng is afraid that he won't have the energy to do anything else today, so he will take out the 6 billion first. After the trading opened, Li Yuan stood aside without saying a word, and Guo Meng began to take charge of trading. Things that seemed very simple to her usually didn't seem to change much, but when they actually happened, she realized how complicated the process was. She saw Li Yuan casually reduce his position by hundreds of millions, and casually liquidate some stocks. But after she got started, she reduced her position by 10 to 20 million, which immediately brought down the stock price, and she didn't dare to reduce it any further. Watching Li Yuan casually reduce his position by billions a day, she realized that everything was an illusion. When you start to really use your brain, most things become complicated. She no longer had the feeling of being in control of everything. All the data and trends would no longer go according to her ideas, and it became extremely difficult to make decisions. She even looked at Li Yuan on the side several times, trying to ask for help. However, Li Yuan said nothing, as if he didn't want to interfere at all. Just like that, by the time the market closed at noon, her palms were sweaty. When I was eating, my hands were still shaking a little, and I felt like I had lost my appetite for anything. It was just about reducing the position by more than 1 billion, and there was no other operation at all. It was already so stressful. She really couldn't imagine that Li Yuan had been operating frequently before, issuing hundreds or thousands of instructions every day, with almost no pause during the process. What exactly was it? How did you do it? After the market opened in the afternoon, the situation did not improve. She worked hard and finally collected 16 billion. When she took a look at the overall data, she was so ashamed that she shrank her head into her neck. Because today is a loss. Among them, Lianying Technology made 5 points today, Tianchuan shares hit the daily limit today, and Song's shares hit the daily limit today. These 3 votes brought a floating profit of more than 500 million to the fund. But on this basis, she still suffered an overall loss. After closing, she came to Li Yuan's office, lowered her head and said, "Mr. Li, I'm sorry, I couldn't do it well." Li Yuan comforted, "I can't blame you today. You didn't do anything and have been busy reducing your positions. There are too many external factors that led to this result. Even if it were me, it would actually be the same. Come on, I am optimistic about you." Although Guo Meng felt much better, he was still very uneasy. Manager Guo, it's only your first day, you're not going to back down, right? If you back down this time, you'll never be able to stand up for the rest of your life. Guo Meng. Could it be that the boss was specifically giving her a chance to break her inner demons? Would you rather lose the company's interests? She immediately cheered up and said, "Thank you, Mr. Li, for your trust. I will try my best." "Well, I believe you." After Guo Meng left, Li Yuan also breathed a sigh of relief. Damn, today's market is really bad. Even if he trades it himself, he may be able to make a small profit, but the increase in net worth will never exceed 1%. After a while, Yu brought over today's detailed report. 3.5452, minus 1.7%. The myth of Qingtian capital rising for 56 consecutive trading days was broken today. He can already imagine what the scene will be like after the net worth is announced tonight. And tomorrow, Guo Meng's pressure will probably be even greater. At least today, she has the 10 billion he proposed before as a guarantee, so she doesn't need to lighten her position too much. There was no chance of it tomorrow. Even if it hit the limit, she would have to reduce her position. Yu asked worriedly, "Boss, I believe in Manager Guo's ability, but the market has not been very good recently. Boss, would you like to give her some advice?" This was Guo Meng's first day in office, and he immediately collapsed. "It's okay. I'm watching the whole process today. There's nothing wrong with Manager Guo's trading techniques. I need to give her a chance. When the company has more funds in the future, I won't be able to handle it." Yu. He said nothing. There are many loopholes in Li Yuan's words. Too busy? You can hire other fund managers. With Qingtian Capital's current reputation, many fund managers are willing to come here. No matter how bad he is, his strength will not be worse than Guo Meng. Li Yuan asked again, "Have you contacted Bixen Company in Beijing?" "I have been contacted. I will go to the capital on Saturday and will report to the boss in real time." "Okay." Yu also went to work. Li Yuan did not go home immediately. Instead, he waited until after 6 o'clock when the restaurant outside started to open, and bought a meal to take home. He didn't expect the market to collapse so quickly. He originally thought Guo Meng would have a good life for a few days. It seemed that she was going to be tortured on the first day. "I feel a little sorry. But fortunately, I got out quickly, otherwise I might have to destroy the sign tomorrow. As for Guo Meng, I guess a grievance award is definitely indispensable." When I got home, while eating, I used my tablet to browse stocks. Zhang Yuanqiao has already informed that he will meet with the Commissioner of the National Fund next week to determine the share and sign a contract. Within a month, you can almost get started. In fact, the US stock market is also in poor shape. But it's big enough. The US stock market has a volume of $40 trillion, while A shares currently only have a volume of $9 trillion, a gap of more than 4 times. Larger size means more opportunities and more space for moving around. Coupled with more complex and diverse rules, there are more that can be used. He didn't pay much attention to the time. There was nothing at home anyway. Before he knew it, it was almost 11 o'clock. When he was about to take a shower and go to bed, he suddenly heard the sound of the door opening. Zhang Yuling came back in the middle of the night. After all, only he and Zhang Yuling have the access cards here. Of course, there are also properties on the property side, but properties cannot be given to others casually. He approached the door and heard the door ringing, but it couldn't be opened. He glanced through the peephole. Only one person was found, with long hair and a face that couldn't be seen clearly, muttering there. "Why can't it be opened?" The voice very low. But there was no other situation except that woman, so he opened the door. Then, he saw Chen Ji standing at the door, swaying and smelling of alcohol, holding onto the wall next to him. At this time, Chen Ji muttered, "Finally opened it?" Li Yuan was standing at the door, and Chen Ji strode in as if there was no one around. As a result, he staggered because he was drunk. Seeing that he was about to fall, Li Yuan didn't reach out to help him. The moment he saw Chen Ji, he knew what her purpose was. But how did Chen Ji get to this level? At this time, Chen Ji fell directly to the floor, and then she lay on the floor and fell asleep. Autumn is here, and it can't stop Chen Ji from wearing a hip-hugging skirt. Li Yuan took a deep breath and said, "Sister Chen, you are in the wrong place. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it." Author, Lao He. Chapter 175. Chen Ji, who was drunk, didn't seem to hear what Li Yuan said, and even started to babble there, but Li Yuan couldn't hear clearly. With Chen Ji's figure, Li Yuan feels really no worse than Zhang Yuling. The capital of a woman who works in social circles is definitely not weak, such as Anna Shen. Because generally if a girl comes out to dominate the circle, it means that his family's strength is not up to par. But any truly awesome boss, such as the eldest lady of Dongfang Lithium Energy, doesn't even bother to stay in the circle. Wherever she is the circle as long as she wants it to be. Whether it's Chen Ji or Shen Anna, if their families are not very strong and they don't have enough advantages in appearance, who will take them to play? Tisk, tisk, Yu Chen Guang is really willing to spend money. Li Yuan didn't know if Chen Ji could hear it, so he muttered to himself. Then he went to the bedroom and got a blanket to cover Chen Ji. After all, the weather has been really cold recently, but it's not time to turn on the heating or floor heating. After that, she didn't care. She wouldn't freeze to death anyway. When she felt cold, she would naturally wrap herself up tightly in the blanket. Anyway, he had never touched Chen Ji from beginning to end. Even if he was pulled for examination, it would be impossible to find any fingerprints of his own on Chen Ji, let alone any biological testing materials. While taking a shower in the bathroom, he thought about it carefully. Yu Chen Guang probably sent someone to investigate him and wanted to get some handle on him so that he could do something for them. It is impossible to expect the white gloves to have any sentiment. He also thought about whether he should call the police. After thinking about it, I realized that I was not a scumbag. Even if I had evidence, I couldn't do anything to myself. Besides, there was no evidence, so it was impossible to do anything to me. Where there is strength, there is error tolerance. Returning to the bedroom, he locked the bedroom door directly, replied a few messages and went to sleep. When he woke up early in the morning and opened the bedroom door, he found that Chen Ji was no longer there. But there was a note left on the dining table. "I'm sorry, I was drunk last night and went in the wrong direction, causing you trouble. I soiled your floor and blanket. I took the blanket back and cleaned it and will deliver it to you in the evening. If you are in a hurry or if you need any compensation, you can call me at 1xxxxx, Your neighbor across the door. Neighbor. Li Yuan opened the door and looked at the end of the corridor. There is indeed another house over there. The layout of both sides is similar, and it is indeed possible to admit your mistake when you are drunk. But, Li Yuan won't believe it. First of all, Chen Ji will not get drunk for no reason. Secondly, even if she lives here, she must have moved here recently. Leaving such a note is just to save face and make things easier for you. After all, she didn't show that she recognized Li Yuan, she just thought she had broken into a stranger's home. Li Yuan threw away the note and went about his own business. An hour later, I set off from home and went to the company. Deep in the corridor opposite, through a reverse peephole, Chen Ji saw Li Yuan going out. She leaned against the door and slowly squatted down. She knew Zhang Yuling was not here last night. Although she was indeed drunk, she also heard what Li Yuan said. She thought she could build some relationships no matter what, but Li Yuan's indifference exceeded her knowledge. Not quite like a normal man. Of course, I am not a good woman either. She took a shower and sent a message to Yu Chengguang. Failed. After sending this message, she put the phone aside and soaked in the bathtub. When she completely relaxed and picked up her phone again, she only saw a bunch of angry words from Yu Chengguang. How could it possibly fail? You can't let go. Even if it's a forced delivery, it must be delivered to his bed. This matter must be taken down, it must be done. I'm telling you, if we can't figure it out, let's finish it together. Your parents and I are all going to die. This week is the last chance, did you hear that? Chen Ji made herself a cup of cereal as if nothing had happened, but the haze in her eyes never dissipated. Li Yuan was in the trading room and witnessed Guo Meng's collapse with his own eyes. She was completely speechless, looking at the screen with blank eyes, unable to issue a single instruction for a long time. Because there are more funds to be redeemed today. A full 18 billion. Without Li Yuan telling the truth in advance, the result can be imagined. She has already produced 9 tickets that have fallen below the limit. I don't dare to spend other tickets, because if I spend a few million, I have to explore a few points. The market's acceptance is very weak. Li Yuan did not take action, because even if he did, the situation would not be much better. At most, he would lose 1 or 2 billion less than Guo Meng. The little money he lost was far less important than his one move. He must maintain the myth of his own business. Anyway, as long as the Christians as a whole do not suffer a loss, it is impossible to reap all the profits, and it is impossible to guarantee returns in the face of such a large-scale redemption. Lianying technology, a cash cow, almost hit its limit today. It means that Qingtian Capital has made more than a month of money on this ticket. It is completely over. There will definitely be shocks in the future and there will be no more market trends. Tianchuan shares were still blocked, and even Guo Meng knew not to touch this fund. Song's shares are still flat. Except for these 2 tickets, all other tickets are losing money because Guo Meng needs funds, 18 billion. In the end, we persisted until the closing bell. After the market closed, Guo Meng opened the door of the trading room and went out. Then he locked himself in the office and never came out again. Li Yuan also returned to the office. Although he hasn't seen the report yet, he also knows what happened today. Because time was running out at the end, Guo Meng had no choice but to spend crazy money on any tickets that did not fall to the limit in order to collect 18 billion in funds. The result is obvious. Almost all of the more than 130 stocks that were ultimately held were hit their limit. About half an hour later, Yu walked in with a pale face, holding a report in his hand. Old boss, this. He thought today would be miserable, but he never thought it would be this miserable. One fund almost hit its limit today. In fact, it is no different from hitting the limit. 3.2003, minus 9.73%. There are thousands of funds in the entire A-share market, and Qingtian mixed small and medium caps can be said to be unique. Yesterday it fell less than 2 points, and the entire fund's comment section was full of criticism. Today's drop is so severe, I don't know what the reaction will be after the announcement. Yu felt that the sky had fallen. The popularity of Qingtian mixed small and medium caps may be completely lost. Li Yuan took a look at the report and said, "Where is Manager Guo?" "I'm in the office, I haven't come out yet." "I gonna go see." Li Yuanzhen felt that the scene was too cruel for Guo Meng. If we continue to let him do the trading, it will probably be stable for a month. I dare not say it will rise every day, but it will be no problem if it rises by at least 5 or 6 points a month. But that will slowly wear away your own halo, and when you come out again the next year, you will lose a lot of your appeal. Starting from the year after next, he needed a lot of money due to the big market conditions for several consecutive years. Naturally, a major topic is needed to attract more funds. This road must be taken. Whether Qingtian capital can exceed the capital scale of 300 billion will depend on the year after tomorrow. Anyway, there will definitely be no chance of this year or next year. He came to the door of Guo Meng's office and knocked on the door. When he found that there was no response inside, he just turned it open. Fortunately, it is not locked. When he came in, he saw Guo Meng crying on his desk. Because she has never experienced anything like this in her life. Fund drops to limit. If any fund falls below its limit, it means that the fund manager will be laughed at for 3 years. She took the blame just 2 years ago, but finally found the courage to work as a fund manager again. In just 2 days, the stock market taught her how to be a good person. The feeling that no matter how hard you try, you can't save it, it's despairing. She heard the noise and looked up to see Li Yuan. She wanted to say something, but she cried so hard that she couldn't speak at all for a while. Li Yuan quickly comforted him, "Manager Guo, it's okay. These are just small scenes. In fact, it's all my fault. Those Christians are all my fans. I didn't expect that they would desperately want to redeem themselves. Today's in the end, it has nothing to do with you. It's okay not to say it." When he said this, Guo Meng suddenly started crying again. Every tear of an adult is filled with grievances. As long as there is less grievance, there will be no tears. Guo Meng cried like a child. "Manager Guo, you really don't need to take it too seriously. These 2 days have nothing to do with your ability. They are crimes other than war. How about traveling on Saturday and Sunday? The company will reimburse you for the entire trip and you can spend whatever you want. Even if it's no problem to buy a few bags or even buy yourself a car. Mr. Yu is going to the capital, do you want to go and have some fun too? Actually, you are already very strong. If I had collapsed in the trading room, you still persisted until the end of the transaction. You are much better than me. Why don't you clean up and I'll treat you to a meal? Call Mr. Yu too. The 3 of us haven't talked for a long time." Half an hour later, Li Yuan shook his head and walked out of Guo Meng's office. Yu has been waiting at the door. "Boss, how is Manager Guo?" The blow was a bit big. Let the technical department close the comment area of the app for a few days. Don't let Manager Guo see it and feel uncomfortable. Oh, okay. In fact, Yu never felt that Guo Meng had any ability. Although he is also a gangster, he doesn't cause trouble. As long as Guo Meng has the ability to be Li Yuan's deputy, I don't understand why Li Yuan insists on letting her be the fund manager. As a colleague, he couldn't say anything and could only acquiesce that Li Yuan's decision was correct. Also, starting from next week, I will send a bouquet of flowers to Manager Guo's office every day. Well, that's it for now. Okay. Yu felt Li Yuan's consideration for his subordinates. After all, with Li Yuan's current worth, he is already considered a big boss. The more than 4 billion yuan on the company's books is not fake. In the entire Zhangzhou, there are no more than 20 people worth more than 4 billion. There are only 5 people who can come up with 4 billion in cash. It is quite rare for such a person to be considerate to his subordinates. It shows that your boss is humane. Li Yuan stayed in the office for a while, made an appointment to have dinner with Wen Yuxian tomorrow, and then took the car home. He would like to give Guo Meng some compensation, but the salary increase will not come just by asking, at least it will have to wait until next year. Guo Meng will have to bear the blame until at least the end of next year. This pressure can be imagined. Soon, we arrived home. As soon as I sat down on the sofa, I was ready to look at the stocks. Within a few minutes, the doorbell rang. After taking a look, Chen Ji was alone, and he opened the door. "Hello, Chen Ji said hello immediately. But in the middle of his words, he suddenly stopped. Then he said in surprise, "Li Yuan? Why is it you?" Li Yuan smiled and said, "Sister Chen, who else could I be? I didn't expect that we are neighbors." Chen Ji also smiled and said, "I thought the person living here was a woman. How to say? The room is very clean and has some fragrance." "Haha, it was left by my girlfriend." Chen Ji immediately showed a resentful look. "It's impossible that you didn't recognize me last night, right?" "I recognized it. Then you made me sleep on the floor all night. When I woke up, I had a cold." Li Yuan said helplessly, "I can't help it. People who have girlfriends should always stay away from others." Chen Ji. If she hadn't seen Xu Yanlin and Zhang Yuling coming here to spend the night, she would have truly believed it. "Then you can get it to the sofa for me." "Sister Chen, I really don't have that ability. I've been suffering from some health problems recently. My whole body hurts so much that I'm so tired from serving food. How can I get someone to sit on the sofa?" Chen Ji said in surprise, "What happened? I think you look good." "It's just that, I over-exercised and was trained by the devil for 7 days. Now my whole bones feel like they are falling apart. Today is quite good. In the past 2 days, I was staggering with pain when I took 2 steps. I can't even pick up chopsticks." Chen Ji covered her chest and said, "I was shocked. I thought there was something wrong with your body. These are all minor problems. I have a way to help you recover quickly." "Any solution?" "It's a massage. You go and lie down on the sofa, and I'll squeeze it for you." Li Yuan hesitated and said, Let's forget it." As a result, Chen Ji put down the blanket in her hand and directly pulled Li Yuan to the sofa. Said, "You have to believe in my skills. I learned the techniques from an old Chinese medicine practitioner. The main reason is that there is no reward for no merit. You call me sister, why do you still need to be so polite? Well, just think of me as an experiment on you." Without any hesitation, Chen Ji pressed on Li Yuan's shoulders and pushed him down on the sofa. Chen Ji changed into a hip-hugging suspender skirt today and wore an apricot-colored jacket on it. The whole person is pure and lustful. However, compared to the ceiling of pure desire on the internet, Chen Ji is obviously in another dimension. At least Chen Ji doesn't have an airport at home. "Then I'll trouble Sister Chen." Li Yuanlan couldn't refuse, so he agreed. Anyway, his phone was recording, and it was on the shelf next to the sofa, playing it upside down. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 176. Li Yuan was lying on the sofa, while Chen Ji was half crouching sideways. Originally, he thought Chen Ji was just making excuses to narrow the topic. But he soon discovered that he was wrong. Chen Ji's technique is very powerful. Xu Yanlin has never learned it at all. It is just superficial and empty, relying entirely on the edges to make people immersed in the experience. Chenji is completely different. Her technique, strength, and control are just right. The pleasant feeling of being massaged appears instantly. There is no doubt that Chenji is professional. Unconsciously, Li Yuan was immersed in it. Every place you press is just right, allowing you to fully enjoy the pleasure. Li Yuan has been a frequent visitor to massage parlors for his entire life, and this is the first time he has experienced such an immersive feeling of pure techniques. Most of them rely on brushing the edges to get people immersed in them. He slowly closed his eyes and even felt sleepy coming. I felt so comfortable that I had nothing to say. After a while, Chenji changed her posture. She took off her shoes, knelt on the sofa, then dragged Li Yuan's head and placed it on her lap. At this time, it seems to have entered another latitude. Li Yuan opened his eyes and almost met Chenji's eyes. He saw a faint smile on Chenji's face and closed his eyes again without saying anything. Chenji could feel that Li Yuan's whole body began to relax, which was different from before. Even gradually his breathing became even, and he fell asleep completely. She used her nails to gently scratch Li Yuan's cheek. It was only after we got to know this little brother that she discovered that he was actually very principled. She just felt Li Yuan relax and a smile appeared on his face. He slowly laid Li Yuan's body flat, then put on his shoes, and finally half crouched in front of the sofa, looking at the sleeping face. In the end, she couldn't help but kiss Li Yuan's forehead, covered Li Yuan with the blanket she had brought before, turned around and left. In a daze, Li Yuan forced his eyes open, only for a second before they drooped again. He was so sleepy. Chenji seemed to have released all the fatigue in his body. As long as she left a little later, she would really fall asleep completely. Now I can sleep peacefully and comfortably. I really tried my best, but Li Yuan refused. If there is any problem, just push it on me as much as possible. You can take my parents away, and I will take care of everything for you. I asked my friends outside to take care of it, and I have prepared $2 million for you. If it is not enough, I will contact you after I come out. After sending these text messages, Chenji took off her shoes and curled up on the sofa. When Li Yuan opened the door the next day, he saw a crowd of people gathered at Chenji's door. He stood aside and watched for a while, then saw Chenji walking out with someone pressing her shoulders and a towel wrapped around her wrists. The moment she saw Li Yuan, Chenji lowered her head subconsciously. Li Yuan felt that it all happened too fast. Too fast to react at all. Last night, Chenji was still laying bait. Why did something happen today? He was not surprised that something happened, but what was surprising was that the time was not right. It's obvious that she has been thinking of ways to remedy the situation, which means she still has plenty of time. Otherwise, even if I succeeded in getting myself to agree last night, it would be of no use. Not to mention that I can't trade on Saturdays and Sundays. Even on working days, I can't help myself get the KDI fund ready overnight. Unless they thought they had no chance to deal with themselves and blew themselves up. If it hadn't been for the incident at Yuzhuan, he wouldn't have suspected that Yu Chenguang and the others were doing some irregular business. It's a pity that he happened to meet him. From then on, he became very wary of Chenguang and would not get involved with him easily. The last time I went mountain climbing, I couldn't refuse, because everyone called me. And at that time, the foreign exchange quota was indeed attractive to me. He wanted to do business well, but Yu Chenguang was unwilling, so he had to let Yu step in to settle the matter. Pity. You should ask her where she learned the technique and let Xu Yanlin learn it. Li Yuan felt that he had never slept so comfortably in so many years. I use my brain too much on weekdays and always have dreams at night. The overall sleep quality is very poor. That is to say, I can't see any problems because I am young and in good health. But in another 10 years, My energy will be visibly unable to keep up. After a night of deep sleep, the discomfort on the body has almost disappeared. The damage that originally took half a month or even a month to recover is almost invisible after one night. The health secrets out there are all lies. Chen Ji was the one who got the true message. In fact, last night was the time when his will was weakest. If Chen Ji didn't leave, it's hard to say what would have happened. After calming down his emotions, Li Yuan went out. Today he had an appointment with Wen Yuxian. The weather has not been very good recently, because autumn has just begun, and it is always rainy. But something is different today, the sun is shining. Clear away the previous haze. It's all the fault of those dark clouds. Now it's finally clear. Although the sky will always be cloudy, it will rain when it is cloudy. How can everything be nourished if it doesn't rain? This is the law of the world, and no one can compete with it. Li Yuan arrived at the appointed tea house. After walking in, he quickly saw Wen Yuxian. The entire tea house is very elegant, especially with the view of the river outside, which raises this elegance to a higher level. Wearing a beige national-style round-neck shirt, paired with a waist-length skirt, and accompanying the action of pouring tea, Wen Yuxian injected real soul into the entire tea room. Her round neck is beautiful. The embroidery on both sides is also very beautiful. The figure is just right and the temperament is perfectly blended. The hair that is pulled up looks more like a bride who has just had her wedding night. My schoolgirl is dressed up so beautifully today. She should go around the school and enchant those classmates. Li Yuan came over and said with a smile. Wen Yuxian also smiled and said, if the senior can't see it, there's no point in charming others to death. Are you complimenting me? It's stating a fact. Phew, raise the salary. While talking, Wen Yuxian stood up and brought a cup of tea to Li Yuan. Senior, we should be considered acquaintances, right? Li Yuan replied, that's for sure. I drank this 100-degree tea together. How can I not be familiar with it? Wen Yuxian saw Li Yuan finish his tea, helped him refill his cup, and said, actually, I have always wanted to communicate with my seniors, but unfortunately I haven't had a chance. Recently, my thoughts have been particularly urgent, so I want to meet my seniors. I'll give it to you, pour some tea and you can explain it to me. How about you? No problem, junior sister, if you have anything to say, just ask me. Wen Yuxian thought for a while and said, Senior, what do you think is the essence of finance? Money. What's the use of finance if you don't have money? The essence of finance is to add leverage to money to maximize the role of the money. But I feel that the more important essence of finance is distribution. Wen Yuxian said it very seriously. Li Yuan was also stunned for a moment and asked, what is the allocation? Distribute wealth. Oh, there is indeed such a lesson in college. My freshman year was so long ago that I almost forgot about it. Thank you to my schoolmate for letting me review it. Wen Yuxian. Is she here to give a lecture to Li Yuan? Obviously he wanted to ask Li Yuan some questions. Senior, don't you think there is something wrong with our allocation method? Isn't it like this all over the world? Yes, it's the same all over the world, but that doesn't mean it's right. Then what kind of distribution do you think is right? This is not a matter for one or two families, but for hundreds of millions of families. I just couldn't think of a better way to allocate things, so I thought of asking the seniors. I believe that from the seniors' perspective, there must be a better perspective on this matter. Ha, you really made a mistake this time. I am just a layman. I only want to make money in the stock market and have never thought of doing anything else. Li Yuan felt that Wen Yuxian's idea was a bit strange. He has indeed considered the future, but some things cannot be done now. To put it bluntly, he has no money now. Billions are just enough to survive alone. Wen Yuxian did not show disappointment, but continued to ask, Then why did the senior suddenly leave the position of fund manager? Isn't it just to send a signal that you can't control the next market? Do you want everyone to run away first? Huh? Schoolgirl, you have misunderstood again. The market has been really bad recently, and I personally am not optimistic about the future market. However, my main purpose is to take a rest. There is no point in making that little money. I will wait until the market improves. Then make a lot of money. But I think senior has the ability to create market trends, so he won't be unable to make money no matter what. Making market trends? Schoolgirl, you really think too highly of me. I am also a newbie in the stock market. With my little ability, let alone making market trends, being able to dominate one or two stocks is already a highlight of my life. Wen Yuxian had no choice but to take out his tablet computer from a bag next to him. He called up a page and handed it to Li Yuan. Said, "Senior, I used my dad's account to trade this last year. Can you give me some advice?" Let me take a look." Li Yuan started to look at the delivery data, then found those stocks and looked at the trends last year. It took more than 40 minutes to get a rough look. During this period, Wen Yuxian refilled several cups of tea for him. After reading it, Li Yuan said, "Young schoolgirl is amazing. Your trading model is much better than mine. Are you interested in becoming a fund manager at Qingtian Capital?" Wen Yuxian knew that Li Yuan was complimenting her, because the market last year was much better than this year, and she only traded millions of funds, and even in the end, it was only 20 million. And what about Li Yuan? You can easily play with tens of billions of dollars. I am several orders of magnitude behind him. Okay, as long as the senior is willing to share his trading thinking, I will do it for him. Li Yuan said with a smile, "Schoolgirl, it's not that I don't want to teach this thing, but there is really nothing to say. It depends more on your own thinking and perception. There is no fixed trading model." Wen Yuxian frowned and said, "Then let me ask the senior one last question." "Senior, you can't continue to deal with me, right? It's not perfunctory, just ask, I promise to answer seriously. When will you return to a shares?" "Mid-December next year." "Will you leave then?" "Sister, these are two questions. I even answered the specific month for the first question, which is enough to prove my attitude. The second question is harder to answer, so I won't answer it for now." "Oh, okay. I have nothing to do then. Can we take some photos together later? I don't have much material to post recently." "Sure." After drinking tea and chatting, we have finished our work today. As for the harvest, I received several posts. We even held hands a few times. When the two finally took pictures on the street, they attracted onlookers. But after they separated, they each went back to their respective homes. Apart from work, there was nothing else to do. The so-called senior and junior schoolmate is just a title. In fact, Li Yuan really wanted to get Wen Yuxian to come to Qingtian Capital. Although her trading thinking is relatively immature, she already has a strong vision and definitely has the potential to become a top fund manager. Unfortunately, Wen Yuxian had no interest. She is not short of money. Her dream was a little out of reach. To put it bluntly, some of them are too ambitious. What kind of bullshit wealth distribution? Li Yuan himself only dares to think about it now, but is confused as to how to do it. Only by down-to-earth preparation of the next fund will you be qualified to talk about the future. Otherwise, his capital will not be enough. Next year is arguably the only chance, before December. It can be said that Wen Yuxian's two questions were very clear, and their main purpose was to spy on military intelligence. Li Yuan can tell her when he will enter, but will not tell her whether he can get out yet. Because he himself had not thought about the decision of not getting out. Going out means becoming an arbitrager through and through, making your own money, and becoming a rich man. If we don't go out, we have to resist the United States interest rate hikes, the economic crisis, everything, and fight for the right to have a say in the distribution of wealth. In that case, if you succeed, you will be the boss, but if you fail, you may be liquidated. Not liquidated by our own people, but liquidated by the beautiful country. Because once it fails, it means that domestic financial sovereignty will be completely defeated, and then it will be led by the nose. When Yuxian returned home, her father asked with a smile, "How was your chat today? Was it fruitful?" "Ang, that's about right. I feel like his ideas are consistent with mine, but he's more conservative." "Then what do you want to do? Continue to pretend to be a couple with him? Why do I feel like you are always suffering?" "Dad, maybe in the eyes of others, he is the one who is suffering. It seems to be like this. If you stand in a different position, your understanding of things will be different, and your thoughts will naturally be different." When Yuxian said, "Dad, do me a favor. Go find Li Yuan and ask him to help promote Oriental Lithium Energy's listing." "Why?" "I think he can make Oriental Lithium a $100 billion company." "Girl, it's only $100 billion, it's not like I can't do it, your dad. $800 billion is also $100 billion. "Oh, then I might consider it, chat with him in a few days and see if he is interested in becoming my son-in-law." They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 177. After Li Yuan came back, he called Zhang Yuanqiao. "Of course, I wanted to ask about Chenji. At least I felt reassured. However, the news received is not optimistic. All in all, Yu Chenguang was caught in a thunderstorm and ran away all night. All the evidence collected so far points to Chenji. In fact, this kind of thing is very common, and white gloves have always been a group that can be sacrificed at any time. Yu Chenguang represents his father, and Chenji's parents are also participants. At present, something happened to Yu Chenguang's father. In the end, in order to protect himself, Yu Chenguang was thrown out and Yu Chenguang was separated from Chenji's parents. However, Yu Chenguang ran away with Chenji's parents overnight, so he could only find Chenji and get the complete chain of evidence from Chenji's mouth. Old man, why does something sound wrong? There must be another link in this, right? It's impossible that Yu Chenguang's father is the biggest fish. Why do you care so much? This matter has nothing to do with you. Oh, I was just asking. Anyway, there must be an explanation for this matter, you know, right? At present, it seems that only small shrimps will get into trouble, and it's not time to touch the big fish. Yeah, I understand. Just like last time, he suspected that Yu was colluding with Yu Chenguang to leak company secrets. Even though he wanted to fire Yu at that time, due to various reasons, he could only endure it for the time being. Either a follow-up investigation will reveal that the matter has nothing to do with him, or we can only find a bigger problem before taking action against him. After all, it makes no sense to go to war without substantial evidence. In other words, you won't start until you are sure that the hook and line can withstand the struggle of the big fish. You must continue to weave the fishing net to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Hey, a little shrimp, what are you trying to do with your life? Li Yuan comforted himself, saying he had tried his best. After making sure that it was completely impossible for him to interfere, he enjoyed last night's massage with peace of mind. Anyway, Chenji will most likely never have a chance to come out in this life. Sunday is a boring day. He exercised at home for 2 hours and went to the community gym for another 2 hours. Basically every day I would video chat with Zhang Yuling and reply to a few messages with Xu Yanlin. Zhang Yuling will report to him the progress of the village. For example, they have rented several houses near the village and are currently moving. And because Zhou Ranran was now her neighbor, She and Zhou Ranran also talked about many topics. As a pregnant woman, the topic is naturally inseparable from parenting. Then, Zhang Yuling turned into a gossip. Husband, who is Zhou Ranran's boyfriend? He's from Zhangzhou. It should be so, I don't know for sure. Isn't she a child of yours? It was my fault, but she didn't tell me. You go and ask. No matter who it is, I will go and talk to his home. Zhang Yuling does have that confidence, and few of the rich second generations in Zhangzhou dare not sell her face. Do not ask. Why are you like this? Are you concerned about your baby? He is already 4 or 5 months pregnant. If you don't get married, how will you be registered if you give birth to a child in the future? That irresponsible bastard, let me know, I will kill him off his head. Teacher Zhang, you should worry about your own affairs. Why are you so worried about other people's affairs? Zhou Ranran strictly followed the script Li Yuan arranged for her, saying that she met a rich second generation and gave her a lot of money. However, the rich second generation's family could not accept her yet, and she needed to go back to her hometown to wait for news about the rich second generation. An unhealthy family is not good for the growth of children. Then, when Sister Ran's boyfriend really doesn't show up, I can accept that child as my godson or goddaughter, right? Humph, you have a beautiful idea. Don't think that I don't know what you are thinking. Do you want to be a godfather? The heart of a villain. Zhang Yuling was addicted to his hometown, and the matter became increasingly out of control. It was now late December, and she had stayed in her hometown for 8 full days without even mentioning the topic of coming back. She even completely forgot that she still had the identity of a class teacher. Anyway, the class teacher is only useful during the first few days of school, but not of much use after that. If you have any questions, you can go directly to the department head and then pass them on to the counselor. Most of the head teachers are graduate students, and it is unrealistic to expect them to actually do things. With a subsidy of 800 yuan a month, who would be so serious? Before you know it, it's Friday again. Yu is going to the capital this week to continue bargaining with Bixin. Because the negotiations failed last week, both sides are still testing their intentions. After all, for Bixin, it doesn't have to be sold. They can operate it themselves and have a certain foundation. This week, for Guomeng, it was nothing more than wandering on the edge of death again and again. After last Friday's feat of nearly falling to the limit, this week's 5-day drop of 30 points seems to be ordinary. Li Yuan cleared Lianying Technology, which gave Lu Shangyuan a lot of blood. On Lianying Technology, Lu Shangyuan lost at least 6 billion. At the same time, on Tianchuan shares, Li Yuan not only did not clear his position, but he has been cooperating with Lu Shangyuan to make a mad move, with the purpose of blowing up the securities lending inside. Let the quantitative side continue to add margin, and finally have to forcefully ask for chips. He is such an easy talker, and if he can make money, he will definitely make it. Because Lu Shangyuan has so many chips, he will definitely not be able to beat him, so he doesn't have much psychological pressure. The chips will be released for quantification next week. Lu Shangyuan is also decisive in his work. There is a high probability that he can barely recover his capital and will not lose too much money here. Li Yuan's life as a salted fish was extremely easy. He's done with it, so naturally someone will help him take on the pressure. For example, Guomeng. A very optimistic girl has now become taciturn. It has been a long time since I saw her smile. Of course, there are also Li Yuan's accounts on various social platforms, which have been scolded a lot. In particular, some of his die-hard fans did not think about leaving at first. As a result, they suffered continuous losses and have now given up nearly half of their profits. He turned from a fan to a hater. He scolded Li Yuan in Li Yuan's comment section every day, and then suddenly gave up. After all, Those who didn't trust Li Yuan ran away immediately. It was impossible for Li Yuan to respond to these questions, so he could only pretend that he didn't see them. On Saturday, Li Yuan met a guest at Zhang Yuanqiao's house. The people present were Zhang Yuanqiao, Hou Zhenqiao, Hong Dadu, the sixth member of the 13 Taibao, and Ye Sheng, the commissioner of the National Fund. Ye Sheng is a middle-aged man in his 30s. He looks gentle and polite, especially in front of people like Zhang Yuanqiao. He behaves very kindly. As the leader, Hong Dadu had never had any sense of existence. It was only at this time that Li Yuan learned that it was this man who helped him connect the big national funds. Ye Sheng adjusted his glasses and said to Li Yuan, "Mr. Li, we have completed the investigation of your situation. I heard before that you planned to bring in 3 billion, right?" "Right. Then I have a general agreement here, please take a look." Ye Sheng handed over a document that was not thin. Li Yuan held it in his hand, which contained more than a dozen pages. There are many cooperation matters, including some original rules of CDI funds and some rules unique to large national funds. For example, if the floating loss exceeds 20%, the position must be liquidated. After all, for large national funds, what is required is stability. Take out 5 billion and lose 20 points, that's 1 billion. Don't look at making 1 billion, it is not of much use to a large national fund. But once it loses 1 billion, the problem becomes big. However, as the pension gap has become more and more obvious in recent years, and it is expected that in another 10 years, they will have to deal with the pension problem head-on, and they have to take a little more risks. The current pension gap is about 30 billion a year, and it is expected to increase by 3 billion every year. Then the pension gap in 2027 will reach 60 billion. It will also completely break through the financial defense of pension funds. The current scale of pension funds is 1.8 trillion, with annual expenditures of more than 300 billion and collections of only more than 200 billion. Theoretically, if the pension scale is reduced to less than 400 billion, big problems will arise, so it is normal for them to be anxious at this time. For a long time, pension funds have seldom participated in the stock market and futures market because it is not stable enough and will cause greater uncontrollable factors. But now that their own problems have arisen, they are also beginning to consider entering the stock market. Use some small money to test the waters in the early stage. Under certain rules, even if you lose some money, the overall impact will not be too big. They not only found Li Yuan, but also many well-known domestic public funds. But Li Yuan is special. At a young age, Qingtian Capital has little background and relies entirely on recommendations. Li Yuan spent half an hour reading the document, turned around and said, "Commissioner Ye, there is one thing I want to change." Ye Sheng said, "You say." "The problem with the management fee is that it is calculated not by year, but by term. The time of one term is not fixed, maybe every 2 months, maybe every 3 months." Ye Sheng frowned and said, "Then how did Mr. Li identify the first issue?" "It's very simple. When the investment reaches us $1.5 billion, when will it reach us $10 billion? The first phase is over, clean up the funds, and then open the second phase." Not only Ye Sheng, but everyone present was shocked. Did Li Yuan not sleep well last night and started talking nonsense? He said that us $1.5 billion would make us $10 billion, and everyone in the room believed it. After all, he did have the strength, and it was not surprising that he had achieved this level. But he boasted that he could do it in 2 or 3 months. With full calculation, the maximum number of trading days in 3 months is 69. 69 trading days will increase 7 times. 10 points a day on average. Ye Sheng even regretted it. They only investigated Li Yuan's background and determined that there were no problems with the political review, but they did not investigate Li Yuan's character. This is so humming crazy. Mr. Lee, why do you think so? Because I need a certain amount of rest time. After each period, I will choose to rest for a month or two. Just to rest. Of course, there are also factors in which I may not be able to trade well if I have more funds. At present, I only plan to play with small funds. Li Yuan's words once again choked the people present. Do you call us $1.5 billion small capital? Do you think that $10 billion is also called small capital? So what is big money? Yasheng looked at Hong Dadu and said, Mr. Hong, look. Hong Dadu's face doesn't look good either. Can't Li Yuan just follow the rules honestly? There is so much bullshit. Now he can't get up or down. If he expresses an opinion, it represents an intervention. If something goes wrong afterwards, I will have to take the blame because I am a lot older. As long as Li Yuan doesn't mention changing the rules, it has nothing to do with him. He only made suggestions at the beginning. Everything that follows is done by the National Fund, and the decision has nothing to do with him. Li Yuan's proposal has little impact on the overall rules, but it has a great impact on people's mentality. This guy just likes to mess with other people's mentality. What can he do? Of course I agreed with a frown. Since Li Yuan is so confident, let's just believe him once. Anyway, it won't have much impact on the overall situation. When Yasheng heard this, he said, okay, I'm going to reorganize the contract now. Please wait for me for a while. The contract needed to be revised and filed again, which took more than an hour. In the end, Li Yuan initialed the contract. Next week, Yasheng Gui will go to the company to sign other contracts with Li Yuan. After all, Li Yuan doesn't know how to carry his official seal with him. Next week, we will officially set sail. After Yasheng left, Hong Dadu said, Li Yuan, we have put the coffin on you. Just be careful. If we lose money, we old guys may not be able to go there during the new year. Your family needs food. Zhang Yuanqiao said, I don't have to beg for food. Come to my house when the time comes and I will give you something delicious. Hong Dadu. This Zhang Yuanqiao is getting more and more disgusting now. Relying on his wealth, he can do whatever he wants. After all, Zhang Yuanqiao invested 200 million in Qingtian mixed small and medium caps in one go, and when he finally left the market, he invested 700 million. With a net profit of 500 million, I am simply envious of them. And this guy is always on Li Yuan's side unconditionally no matter what the occasion. Li Yuan said, old man, no one can say for sure about stock trading. I just want to set a goal for myself to spur me forward. After all, I am worth billions now, and I have no motivation to fight. Now, if you don't find a goal for yourself, what's the difference between you and me? Earning $3 to $5 billion a year is such a boring life. Even Zhang Yuanqiao felt that Li Yuan was pretending a little too much. What does it mean to make a boring living making $3 to $5 billion a year? If you can make a stable income of $3 to $5 billion every year, the title of God of Wealth of the Finance Department should be given to you. After all, you alone are worth 100,000 ton cargo ships. It's okay for you to brag in front of me in private. Just be humble on this occasion and don't let others see the joke. Zhang Yuanqiao said quickly. On the one hand, it is to give Li Yuan a warning, on the other hand, it is to give Li Yuan a step forward. Even if the results are unsatisfactory in the future, Li Yuan will not have a bad impression of being blind and arrogant. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 178. The fund name sets the tone. Qingtian Global Select Blend, DI. On Monday, it took the two parties a full 6 hours to draft the contract. After all preparations were completed, they began to transfer funds and wait for approval. Yu was so shocked when he saw that his boss had secured the KDI fund share without saying a word, and the amount reached us $1.5 billion. That's $1.5 billion. Dawn Capital, with a quota of only $100 million, dares to sell tens of millions of dollars. Only those super large funds can apply for a quota of $1.5 billion, and they also face extremely strict supervision. Li Yuan said to Yu, "Mr. Yu, get to know manager yet. From now on, he will be responsible for the work at night. You can help him get familiar with our company this week. Yesheng must come with him, because he has to personally write reports and report the daily data. He is also the general manager, so Li Yuan changed his name to Yu as Mr. Yu to distinguish between them. He usually calls him Mr. Yu in private, and only calls him Manager Yu when the two of them are around. You can't call others boss as your boss, right? The current situation is more suitable to correct Yu's name." Yu naturally recognized the meaning of the title, and said to Yesheng with a smile, "Manager Ye, nice to meet you. Please give me more advice from Mr. Yu in the future." Although the working hours of the two people did not overlap, Yu was in charge of everything. Yesheng had no authority over many things, so he had to trouble Yu to make arrangements. To put it bluntly, he is an overseer, and he is an overseer without authority. He may leave at any time. In fact, he already wanted to back down. At first, Li Yuan was chosen because of Hong Datu's introduction. Later, after investigation, it was discovered that Li Yuan was extremely talented. Then, this task was assigned to him. He's here to gild. Li Yuan himself has no qualifications. If he makes achievements, a large part of the credit will go to him. He is only in his 30s, so as long as he can achieve success, there will be plenty of room for him to play in the future. Ordinary people don't get such opportunities. He was very excited at first. As long as Li Yuan could make more than 10 points a year, it would be a perfect ending for him. With the help from my family, I have basically passed the most difficult stage in my life. The result is now. He really didn't have any confidence in Li Yuan. From meeting Li Yuan to now, Li Yuan seems to be bragging. He could understand young people being arrogant, but it was rare to be as arrogant as Li Yuan. Judging from his experience, Li Yuan probably became famous and rich at a young age, and he has already drifted away. The most taboo thing in playing finance is to be arrogant and underestimate your opponents. No matter how talented you are, you will fall into the trap of others and eventually lose miserably. But there was no turning back for him. If I had known earlier, I shouldn't have taken this job or gone to another company. What he was most afraid of was that Li Yuan would lose money to the warning level on the first day, and then, he would be able to pack up and go home. The entire career path will also be blocked by an obstacle because of this incident. After leaving the company, he received a call from Ho Wenbin. After all, we arrived in Zhangzhou. Ho Wenbin was the host here and wanted to treat him to a meal. So the two made an appointment and met 10 minutes later. Ho Wenbin came back temporarily. The moment he saw Yesheng, he said, "Congratulations, brother Ye, for taking this step. You will be promoted after you return." Yesheng sighed and said, "Don't talk about being promoted. I'll be satisfied if I don't take the blame." Ho Wenbin said in surprise, "What's going on? I finally got sent abroad. Isn't this a good thing?" "I thought it was a good thing at first, but after meeting that Li Yuan, I don't know whether it was good or bad. Anyway, Li Yuan gave me the feeling that it was not reliable at all. I fell into Li Yuan's hands this time. Now, I probably won't have much chance before I'm 40 years old. It is very important before the age of 40. If you want to succeed after this age, it can only be called changing your destiny against the will of nature. You can imagine the difficulty." Ho Wenbin asked, "What's going on?" "The elders in the family speak highly of Li Yuan. Ye Sheng explained, maybe, Li Yuan has enough ability, and the elders also recognize it. But he is too proud and feels that the risk is very high. Well, he does seem to be rather arrogant. So, I have failed this time. I just hope that Li Yuan can hold on for 2 more days and don't ask me to pack up and go back all at once. I really can't lose my face. After Ho Wenbin returned, he told Ho Zhenqiu some of Ye Sheng's complaints. Grandpa, brother Ye has always been very accurate in judging people. Is Li Yuan all ready? Before he finished speaking, Ho Zhenqiu interrupted and said, what you have to do is not to criticize other people's faults, but to learn from other people's strengths. He earned 30 billion in just over 2 months. This is his ability. Even though he is now inflated and proud, his talent is still there. Even if he fails this time, there will be another time. He is only 19 years old, and he has the capital to expand. No matter you or Ye Sheng, none of them evaluated the strength of others. Yes. Ho Wenbin lowered his head, facing his grandfather's teachings, he did not dare to refute at all. Ho Zhenqiu continued, whoever achieves great things will focus on the shortcomings of others all day long. Is it possible to get ahead by relying on one's own abilities without even having such a pattern? Now Ye Sheng is a little shrimp, and Li Yuan is the big boss. When facing the boss, keep a low profile. If he has the ability to criticize the boss, why does he need to do this kind of work? If you continue like this, you will be no different from Yu Chengguang. Grandpa, it can't be so serious. I didn't do anything like Yu Chengguang. What does it have to do with whether you have done something or not? When someone wants you to take the blame, you have to. Besides, who can guarantee that they have never done anything wrong in their life? And the right or wrong of a thing depends entirely on you. Is he strong? If Li Yuan was not strong, he would have been targeted by others and would not be able to survive in the financial industry based on the things he did. If you look at Li Yuan's layout from beginning to end, he is confident. Only then do you dare to confront others, instead of being arrogant and arrogant. Ho Wenbin originally wanted to use some of Ye Sheng's views to gain recognition in front of his grandfather, but he was scolded instead. It seemed that his grandfather was right, but he couldn't understand it. What happened to Yu Chengguang was an accident, wasn't it? What does it have to do with ability? And it wasn't that something happened to Yu Chengguang, it was someone else who got him involved. He thought it was normal for Yu Chengguang to take the blame, but he never felt that Yu Chengguang had done anything wrong. In that environment, he had no choice. But according to his grandfather, it seemed that Yu Chengguang himself had a problem. Li Yuan, who had boasted, could only work harder to read the market. Being so arrogant this time was intentional. He didn't want what happened to the third of the 13 Taibao to happen again. He must make cooperation happen at once. If he is humble, even if he succeeds in the future, it will only be shocking. For him, a good temper is a constraint. If he gets crazy, many things will be easier to talk about later. And even if you make a mistake, others will think it is normal. It's like if a child with a docile personality suddenly does something bad, his impression score of 100% may drop by more than 10 points. But if a bad boy does something not so bad, the impression score of 3 points may even increase to 10 points. Being a good person will suffer because the other person will think you are easy to talk to. For the first cooperation, both parties needed a certain tolerance, so Li Yuan hardly mentioned any conditions. But he was serious about doing this. I started preparing for it 2 weeks ago and even tried using a simulated disk. Of course, there is definitely a gap with the actual offer, I just want to deepen the process. After going back to pick up Zhang Yuling on Saturday, he started trading for the first time on Monday night. This time the data is not public and can only be seen by company insiders. The market opens at 10:30 in the evening. Usually at this time, Li Yuan is ready to take a rest. For the biological clock, it is a subversion. After the market opened, he first tested the waters on a few stocks, because the CDI fund did not limit the number of positions, could short positions, and did not limit the proportion of individual stock positions, so the overall degree of freedom was much higher. As long as you can make money, you can play however you want within the rules. The stocks he chooses are basically between $3 billion and $10 billion. He doesn't touch the big stocks, nor the extremely small ones. Because from $3 billion to $10 billion, stocks at this position have the strongest ability to cash out. Stocks with more than $50 billion can only be favored by large funds for long-term investment. He doesn't have the patience. At around 2 o'clock in the morning, he started to feel sleepy. So far, he has only entered the market with a total of $200 million. He glanced at the time and said, "It's almost done today. I won't move any further. Drink some water and rest." The first day was so unremarkable. After closing, Li Yuan went home immediately. Yashen began to be responsible for sorting out today's data, and he would report it later. No doubt he was startled when he was sorting it out. Because there was almost no profit today, and of course, I didn't lose money either. The floating profit was $190,000. Compared with the scale of $1.5 billion, the last 3 digits of net worth have not changed, and they can only make a fuss about the fourth digit. 1.0001, add 0.01%. It's simply shocking data. Looking at the entire data, it is unremarkable. Li Yuan was only responsible for buying, and the funds for buying were not much. He bought more than 20 stocks ranging from hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. After he sent this data to the capital, there was no doubt that he was questioned, and he was seriously suspected of falsifying the data. But in fact it is so ordinary. I originally thought that the first day was just a trial run. As a result, the next day, Li Yuan still showed no improvement. Net worth, 1.0003, add 0.02%. On this day, the position reached $1 billion, and the number of stocks held was reduced by 3 stocks compared with the previous day. After spending $1 billion, there was only such a small fluctuation. Yasheng's whole body's expectations were pulled down. Among the other similar funds, some lost money and some made money, but none of them were like Li Yuan, whose mediocrity could make people fall asleep even looking at the data. Because in the data, almost all numbers are after the decimal point. The stocks Li Yuan chose also had extremely small amplitudes. If they were placed on A shares, they would have a special name, loom. It's just a K line that floats back and forth like a woven fabric. On Wednesday night, Yashen was waiting at the door of the trading room. 6 or 7 hours later, Li Yuan walked out with a tired look, and then left the company without looking back. He hurriedly started sorting out today's data, and the more he sorted it out, the more confused he became. Today's net worth is still painful to watch. Whether you make money or lose money, at least you have an explanation. Where is Li Yuan? It looks like you've made a profit, but in fact it's like you haven't. He was indeed much better than those who were losing money, but he looked like he was half dead every day. How could he have the confidence to brag about a 6-fold increase in 2 to 3 months? Net worth, 1.0005, add 0.02%. Today's position size reached $1.2 billion, and the number of stocks held was reduced again, leaving only 19 stocks. After sorting it out, he began to contact the leader and prepared to send the report. He still remembers how eager the leader was to see the data on Tuesday morning. He called almost as soon as the market closed. The result is now. The leaders didn't even care to see it. There is almost nothing on the entire report, no useful data can be seen, and no hope can be seen. Li Yuan seems to be keen on playing on those half-dead stocks. He seems to be a little afraid of losing money. This is the most conservative trading method. A bit like an old man, he doesn't seek meritorious service, but only seeks to have no faults. The character shown by Li Yuan before was completely two extremes. Finally, Yesheng couldn't bear it anymore. I called home. Thursday. Net worth, 1.0006, at 0.01%. The used position is still 1.2 billion, and there are only 18 stocks left. Friday. Net worth, 1.0007, 0.01%. US $1.3 billion in positions were used, and there were still 16 stocks held. On Saturday morning, Yu didn't have to go to work, but Yesheng said he had something to do with him. Then he came. After arriving at the company, he found that it was not just Yesheng, but also a young man in his 20s with a look of despair. Yesheng said, "Mr. Yu, I'm really sorry to disturb you during the holidays. The main reason is that there are some problems on my side. The superiors asked me to go back as soon as possible. My next work will be handled by Yao Yingsong beside me." Yu was confused. Does the boss know about this? I've left a message with my boss, and he has no objections to this matter. Oh, that's fine. Yu had nothing to say, so he directly went through the entry procedures for Yao Yingsong. Yao Yingsong was helpless, he had no choice at all. Damn it, I just started working and I have to come over to take over. Isn't it just okay? Seeing that his position was taken over, Yesheng smiled and said, "In that case, Mr. Yu, I will leave first and see you again when I have the opportunity. Goodbye, never see you again. I thought it was a good job, but I almost tortured myself to death." Fortunately, he was thrown out in time. "Well, seeing that I have never asked for leave at any time, and I have never missed one, can you please give me your monthly pass? I just want to collect 1,000 tickets, and now I am still short of about 200 tickets. With the double monthly ticket, it will only be 100 tickets. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it." Author, Lao He. Chapter 179. At 10 o'clock in the morning, Li Yuan woke up. I got home at 5:30 and went to bed around 6, only to wake up after only 4 hours of sleep. I don't feel sleepy at all, but as soon as night comes, I feel sleepy immediately. When trading, his brain couldn't turn around. During this period, he could only filter as much as possible. I have been filtering until today, and there is no way to continue, otherwise I will miss the best market. In fact, Monday and Tuesday are quite good, because after he comes back, Zhang Yuling wakes up, and then he can make himself tired and sleep until 1 or 2 in the afternoon. But Zhang Yuling, that bastard, couldn't bear the humiliation and ran away to his hometown again. In her words, she works very hard and needs to learn to exercise restraint to avoid harming her body. In fact, Li Yuan also knew that it was his mother who accompanied Zhang Yuling to the hospital for a checkup. Zhang Yuling was worried about affecting the child, so she deliberately avoided it. At this time, I missed Chenji a little bit. Being able to sleep deeply for several hours will probably become more and more luxurious in the future. I can only get up to eat something and go back to sleep at 2 p.m. Then stay up late to watch the market and continue the habit. There is no way to put it off until next week. Even if drowsiness comes then, we have to do it. Most people have never heard of the stocks he currently holds, because they are also small companies abroad. Small tickets like A shares with a market value of 4 to 5 billion are not even looked at by foreign funds. Basically, each stock holds a position of tens of millions of dollars. The proportion is not high, but it is not low. before 2 or 3 points. In the first 2 days, he made large purchases, and in the next few days, he made repairs, liquidating some stocks, and adding more money to the remaining stocks. He mainly tests those with more chips. No matter how much you want, the other party is willing to give it. After searching for the tickets that Sosu didn't give chips to, he gave up on them all after testing. I don't have time to play with them now, let's wait until next time. The willingness to give chips shows that they are struggling to hold on, but they don't want the stock price to fall. Because the stock price falls, their books will not look good, and it will not be easy to explain to investors. The current general environment is not good. Any financial shock does not appear suddenly, but has its own reasons. For example, liquidity tightening, such as the expectation of subsequent interest rate hikes. No one understands these data better than those who play finance. In particular, the liquidity crunch is almost visible to the naked eye, and the situation next year is not very optimistic. They have a lot of investors' money that needs to be returned, and investors will not ask for it to be taken away. There are more than 5,000 financial institutions on Wall Street, almost all of which are public and private equity and securities firms. Their main battlefield is the 8,000 listed stocks in the US stock market, and they live on stocks. Futures. That's a game played by big spot guys or big capital. Unless the funds are extremely small, hundreds of thousands or millions, and you can spend some money in it, otherwise the big funds don't have the strength to go in and basically give money to those big spot guys. Wall Street needs to make profits, needs to have an explanation to investors, and needs to deliver results so that more people can invest money. Therefore, US stocks are quite active. The daily turnover is around $500 billion. In addition, the beautiful country has been releasing water for a long time, and the US stock market is the largest reservoir, so the status of the US stock market is the same as that of the domestic property market. No matter how bad the market is, various policies will be introduced to stabilize it. It cannot collapse. Once it collapses, the wealth of the beautiful country will be reduced by 30%. But whether you can make money there still depends on your own ability. Even if the bulls grow for 10 years, those who should lose money will still lose money. Unless buying stock index related. Another point is that when US stocks are cut, they are not merciful at all. It is impossible for Wall Street to let others make big money. When the time is right, it will be harvested again. After all, it is their home court. When you play basketball, you still have a home whistle, let alone deals worth hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. The trick of unplugging the network cable was also the first one they used. There is no place for retail investors to survive in the US stock market, and all retail investors are targets to be cut off by institutions. Unless you don't need leverage, are not short of money, don't move for 10 years, and happen to buy a ticket with good growth potential. Then they won't be able to cut it in the short term. Sunday. Student Chu, you haven't been to class recently. Can you come over and tell me what the teacher taught? Otherwise, I will fail the next final exam. Li Yuan really couldn't sleep, so he rocked Chu Yanlin over to use as a pillow. Then, the quality of sleep was much better. I slept from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon at least. He treated Chu Yanlin to a meal and sent her to a place not far from the school before leaving. It is not convenient to send it directly to the school gate now, lest people you know see it and gossip. Although it's true. Finally, the wait came Monday night. Li Yuan had dinner at around 7 o'clock and went to the company. The entire building has gone off work, only Qingtian Capital still has the lights on. When Yu saw Li Yuan coming, he went over to say hello. Mr. Yu, why haven't you gotten off work yet? Yu said with a smile, boss, the previous manager yet changed to another person due to some circumstances. I was afraid that the boss wouldn't recognize him, so I stayed a little longer. While talking, Yao Yingsong came over and took the initiative to say hello, boss, my name is Yao Yingsong, and I succeed manager Yesheng. You can just call me Xiao Yao. In fact, Yao Yingsong is several years older than Li Yuan. Oh, I remember Yesheng told me about this. Manager Yao, right? Please buy a cup of fruit tea for everyone in the trading room. Everyone will be busy when the market opens later. Yao Yingsong immediately said, okay, I'll buy it right away. Do you know how many people are in the trading room? I know, including you, boss, there are 11 in total. Well, that's fine, sorry for bothering you. No trouble. After saying that, Yao Yingsong went out. Yu was a little surprised that Li Yuan had never instructed his employees to do anything other than work. Besides, there is no habit of drinking fruit tea in the trading room. So he said, boss, you can ask me to do this kind of thing in the future. After all, Yao Yingsong is also a member of a large national fund, so it is not good to be bossed around like this. But Li Yuan waved his hand and said, there is no need to bother the boss with such trivial matters. They are of no use anyway. Li Yuan also paid great attention to the people in the big national fund at the beginning. Yesheng was basically idle in the company and wouldn't let him do anything. And although I didn't really trade last week, at least I didn't lose money, right? The results of it? Yesheng actually ran away. Is this virtue? Is it fake that the co-author made nearly $1 million combined last week? Have you, Yesheng, ever made $1 million in your life? In this case, just work honestly from now on, and don't spoil anyone. About an hour later, Yao Yingsong came back with his things. He even found a small table and placed it at the door of the trading room. Li Yuan didn't say anything. He ordered the traders to get a cup each and then went to the trading room. There was still an hour before the market opened, so he had a good chat with these traders in advance, so that if he fell asleep midway and his brain was not working properly, he would not be unable to react. These traders have all been following him for several months, and the ones on Guo Meng's side are the newbies. These people have adapted to his trading rhythm and know what he means. If anything goes wrong, report it to me immediately. I may not be able to react. The market was about to open, Li Yuan said something, and everyone entered their posts. Qingtian Capital is different from many fund companies. In most fund companies, fund managers set the general direction, and everything else depends on the traders. Even some fund managers do not necessarily go to the trading room. Those traders also have considerable autonomy. It's different at Qingtian Capital. Li Yuan is a man of one word. He takes care of everything and must strictly follow his requirements. It takes quite a while to adapt to this rhythm. Forget everything and listen to Li Yuan's instructions accurately to be considered qualified. As 10:30 arrives, US stocks officially open. DRT, 6 times leverage, open at 20 million short contract. BBY, 6 times leverage, 30 million short contracts. YYTG, 6 times leverage, 20 million short orders. Following Li Yuan's instructions, the trading room became busy. Li Yuan himself does not operate. The screen in front of him is divided into more than a dozen stocks. These tickets are all distributed when the chips are distributed. No matter when Li Yuan enters the venue, even if he enters for tens of millions of dollars, he can still receive the chips. He only has $300 million in hand, so he can only use leverage to open short contracts. If you buy tens of millions of dollars, the other party is willing to give you chips because they hope that more funds will enter the market and everyone will work together to raise the stock price. This is very good about us stocks. It is very convenient to open short orders. Unlike A-share securities lending, although it is short selling in name, it is actually nothing the same. Small funds are not used, but large funds are not used. Anyway, you can use it casually for quantification. He is very clear about the current situation, that is, Wall Street funds are very willing to leave the market, but for those financial institutions on Wall Street, retaining funds is the most important thing. This is the contradiction. Therefore, for Wall Street financial institutions, if there are funds willing to help stabilize the stock price or increase it, they are willing to give some chips. But if someone puts out empty orders, even if they have money, they dare not take it. Especially 10 to 20 million, which is not considered small money when put on a stock with a market value of 30 to 4 billion. Once the commitment is insufficient, the stock price may fall through. Among the small stocks in the US stock market, there are almost no retail investors, all of them are Wall Street institutions. They even communicate with each other. If you put it in A shares, you will definitely be accused of market manipulation. But in the US stock market, it is rare to check, because everyone plays this way. Even those stocks with a market value of hundreds of billions are almost always manipulated by Wall Street. On Li Yuan's side, he smashed more than a dozen stocks in a row, almost breaking through all of them. The largest one dropped more than a dozen points, and the smallest one dropped 6 points. The commitment is very weak. Then, he began to use the remaining more than 100 million US dollars, used leverage and began to place buy orders at the lowest point. He only wants this price. There was a bit of haze in the morning on Wall Street. After all, this is a common problem in big cities, and Manhattan is not near the ocean. McPherson is the boss of a private equity company with a capital scale of around $500 million under management. Once upon a time, he was also a retail investor, but it was difficult for retail investors to make a move in the US stock market. With his keen financial sense, he became a thorn in the eyes of Wall Street after earning his first $30 million. Whenever he traded a certain stock, he would be severely punished. He once faced bankruptcy, but finally managed to recover his net worth of tens of millions with more than $2 million. Then, he couldn't beat it and joined Wall Street. His Singer Capital has been established for 12 years, and McPherson is 52 years old this year. I have been really agitated recently, as his LP wants to take the money and leave. Where did he get the money? The money is all in the stock market. If you want to take it out, you must clear some stocks. The market is too fragile now. If you reduce your position by 10 to 20 million US dollars, it may bring down some small stocks. Moreover, the tacit understanding among financiers makes it impossible to lighten their positions at this time, because once the chain effect is triggered, their wealth will shrink sharply. In the game of finance, after most people enter the game, unless they lose all their money and leave the game, if they want to make money, they must maintain the bubble. It's okay to spend hundreds of thousands or millions a year, but you can't just take away 50 million or even 100 million. Just like cashing out on a credit card, if you cash out 5,000 yuan each time, you will always be able to cash out, and your credit will not collapse. You just need to make up for it when you make money. If you cover it all at once, you may face the risk of credit bankruptcy if you cannot replenish the funds. The stock market is more flexible because the leverage of credit cards is not high, while the leverage of the stock market can be several times or even 10 times. They will choose a time period every year to make unexpected market movements and attract external funds to enter the market. Therefore, their overall funds are increasing. Since the stock market value is frothy, they have been making money in name only. Those who leave the market early will take the funds that entered later, and this game can continue to be played. Unless, most of the funds want to be withdrawn. For example, recently, he received a hint to leave the market with $200 million. If you want to keep this money, you can only make investors think that they can make more money by leaving the money here. Last week, other funds entered one of his stocks, which made him overjoyed. If other funds come in, he will have an opportunity. Even if it doesn't raise the stock price and create higher floating profits, it can at least help him free up a few $1,000,000. However, as soon as the market opened this week, one of his heavy holdings was smashed. It's that damn brokerage again. The last time I saw their manager, his mouth smelled worse than the insoles I haven't washed in 3 months. You can see the trading codes when trading US stocks. Behind those codes are the brokerage institutions that can provide channels. Asshole. He watched helplessly as the stock price was smashed, and the previous short orders accumulated little by little at the bottom. If you really let the other party repay the short contract at this position, then it will be equivalent to letting others make a few points in vain. That's millions of dollars in profit. There is little money in these tickets, and bubbles account for the majority. If another few $1,000,000 are taken away, it will be difficult to have funds to raise it again. And he had a heavy position in the stock, and it was difficult to make profits. He had to face the situation of investors leaving the market, triggering a chain reaction. In the trading room, he picked up the phone openly. Faced with this situation, he had no choice but to ask others for help. What kind of charges of market manipulation? Oh, God, aren't we going to church every day to atone for our sins? Hey, old man, I need your help. What a coincidence, Evan, I need your help too. His full name is Evan McPherson. Thank you all for your monthly support. I may not be able to add more updates recently. I will add more updates after the holidays. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 180. Li Yuan threw out the bait last week, and this week is the time to reap the rewards. In fact, as long as you test the other party's bottom line, you are already half successful. Li Yuan's actions for a week in a row failed to elicit much reaction from them, and they even looked forward to his coming. At that time, Li Yuan realized that there was no particularly powerful person among these tickets. They are basically small institutions, otherwise they would have buried their own funds there. It is not unusual for an empty order to ignite. Li Yuan just wants to continue to test the opponent's bottom line. Still not picking up. If the other party stays silent, he will make a few $1,000,000 and leave. But obviously, the other party will not remain silent. After waiting for about an hour, funds started to come in one after another. The first step is to pull the stock price back, and then start thinking about liquidating the short order in Li Yuan's hand. After all, each ticket contains $20 million, which is not a small amount of money. As long as those short orders are liquidated, it means that the money Li Yuan invested has entered the stock and injected vitality into the ticket. It will be easier to cash out. Li Yuan knew very well that the people on Wall Street were very ruthless, and they would either pull him out directly or not take any action at all. Its allocation situation is similar, with a long order of $50 million in a stock and a short order of $20 million. Or a $70 million long order paired with a $30 million short order. After the stock price pulled back, there was no movement on Wall Street. They were probably checking the account book, such as investigating whether he had used leverage. They have the strength to get it. Even if you go too far, you can find out that the account that entered the market last week is the same account that sold today. However, the authority required is relatively high, and the current situation is not like this. Another 2 hours passed. Wall Street seemed to know that its leverage was very high and began to push up. Knock him out first and then talk. It is a small stock in itself, with a small market capitalization, and the market control is very serious. It does not cost much to raise it. In the blink of an eye, it increased by 10 points. Li Yuan immediately said, "Continue to open short orders, and the leverage will still be 6 times. He still has money in his hand. If the other party goes up 10 points, he will open a short order at that price." The biggest bookmakers in US stocks are actually brokerages. Hedging can be done between short orders and short orders. For example, if a short order is opened at a price of $10 at the beginning, and it is raised to $11.3 with 6 times leverage, the liquidation line will be triggered and raised to $11.5. The position will be liquidated. And Li Yuan opened a short order again at $11, then this short order would have to be pulled to $12.70 before the liquidation line would be triggered, and the position would be liquidated only when it was pulled to $13. Putting the two transactions together, as long as it does not touch $12, it will not touch the liquidation line, let alone liquidation. Obviously, Wall Street will not stop easily. Tens of millions of dollars have been invested in raising prices, so there is no point in stopping. Li Yuan suddenly stopped dozing off. The trends of more than a dozen stocks are not consistent, because the institutions behind them certainly do not have much overlap. After all, there are more than 5,000 institutions on Wall Street, let alone in other parts of this beautiful country. They were constantly fighting among themselves and it was impossible to know everyone. Even if you bump into a few people you are familiar with or have a particularly good relationship with, it still won't have much impact on the overall situation. This is the darkest corner of the entire market and is rarely targeted by too many people. Just like in A-shares, if Mutai reaches the daily limit, countless people will know about it. However, Tianchuan Co. Limited has more than 10 consecutive boards, but its popularity cannot rise, and the same goes for Lianying Technology. No one will pay attention to these, and even if they do, they will only think that the dealer inside is playing, and unfamiliar people will not pay attention to it for a second. Some tickets stopped after being raised 10 points, while others continued to raise prices, with an attitude that would make Li Yuan liquidate his position. As he continued to pull, he obviously had more ammunition in his hand. When the price reached about 20 points, Li Yuan placed an empty order again. This time, as long as they reach 27 points, they will be liquidated. The position was liquidated at 15 points for the first time. After the second increase, the position was liquidated at 22 points. After the third increase, the position was liquidated at 27 points. After the fourth increase, the position was liquidated at 31 points. Lower every time. Getting closer each time. The $300 million in his hand can be increased 6 times. A maximum of 37 points can be tolerated in the stock. When a stock moved up 25 points at 2 o'clock in the morning, Li Yuan knew that today's first opponent was coming. I am about to increase my position on this stock for the 4th time. Continue to open short contracts worth $20 million. His short position was indeed losing money, and he even lost all his capital. But even if he increased his investment for the 4th time, his actual investment was only over $10 million. And his long orders have now made a profit of $13 million. If he increases his position on the 4th short position, he can earn more than $15 million from the long position. Compared with the principal of $12 million, he still makes about $3 million. This is just one of 16 stocks. Moreover, the long order in his hand can be converted into a short order at any time. He is not afraid of not having any chips at all, he has already obtained them before. A few more minutes passed, and even though he added weight for the 4th time, the opponent still rose rapidly. The stock was about to rise 30 points. Continue to open short orders worth $20 million. This is the last time to increase the amount, and it is impossible for Li Yuan to really do it for the 6th time. What if the other person is crazy? 34 points to blow up the position, he wants to get stuck in this position. At 33 o'clock, sell a small amount of chips and let the other party take them. Don't let the opponent break through 34 points, and the stalemate cannot exceed 5 minutes. If the opponent insists on attacking upward, directly increase the position for the 6th time. At the same time, Some other votes began to be solicited. It is estimated that the division of interests has been discussed privately. Li Yuan was too familiar with this scene. Just shameless. And this is what Li Yuan takes advantage of. If they all follow the rules, he really won't have any chance to make a move, because the market will be too complicated, and he can only jump repeatedly in the market, and he will make a lot of money at the end of the day. Not much money. Some tickets lacked momentum, so he started shipping after adding more money for the third time. They are all shipped in small quantities so as not to scare the funds inside. Hundreds of thousands of dollars out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. The US dollar is much more convenient for trading. 10 million US dollars doesn't seem like much, but in fact it's already 65 million. Rounded up, that's 100 million. It's not very satisfying to just mix up 100 million in funds casually. It was about 4 o'clock, not long before the market closed, and Li Yuan couldn't survive here. Because all other people's funds are locked up. It didn't cost much to raise the price by 30 points before. Except for the short order issued by Li Yuan, the other chips were only a few $1,000,000. But no one expected that after more than 20 points, it didn't seem like there were many, but in fact there was a steady stream of chips being thrown out. This position is already considered a high position. The opponent wanted to go sideways, but Li Yuan didn't give them a chance. If they don't want to pick it up, then they will smash it out bit by bit. Some tickets accepted it bravely, while others seemed to have discovered the problem and began to stop resisting, and even hit themselves. The purpose is not to let the long orders in Li Yuan's hands run away. There was also some symbolic resistance. In fact, as soon as Li Yuan exerted his strength, he immediately fell flat and quickly dropped from more than 20 points to more than a dozen points. At the same time, Li Yuan was doing two-hand transactions. One side collects chips to repay part of the short orders, especially the fourth and fifth overweight short orders, which are profitable at this time. He wants to reduce the pressure on short orders, because the pressure on short orders with 4 or 5 increases is very high. Once the other party is determined to pour in hundreds of millions of dollars, not only will it blow him up, but he will also be forced to add a lot of margin. No jars have been broken yet, they all seem to be waiting for tomorrow. Li Yuan is also waiting for tomorrow. After all, once there is an institution inside that breaks the pot, it means there will be no chance tomorrow, unlike today where you can eat the longs and the shorts. Almost all of the late trading is dealing with those short orders. The chips in his hand are different from those in the hands of brokers. Unless someone takes the initiative to open a short order, the chips in the hands of brokers will not participate in market circulation. Every time a short order is repaid, it means that part of the chips in the market are missing, which is a good thing for the long orders you held in the first place. And if the purchased chips are not used to repay the short order, then they will have liquidity in their own hands, and they will not be able to lock in today's profits, and the risk will be even greater. When he first arrived, as a newcomer, he had to remain in awe of this market. It doesn't matter if it's A shares, that's his home court, and he can take risks to pursue ultimate returns. At 5 o'clock, the market officially closed. Most of the stocks rose by about 10 points, and some stocks fell flat and were smashed back to their starting points. Some stubborn people could only barely maintain the price at around 20 points. They had no money to continue to push up the price, and they were unwilling to give up, so they could only hold on. Anyway, Li Yuan did not violently smash the market. After the market closed, Li Yuan opened the door to the trading room. Everyone stretched. Unlike the 4-hour daily trading hours of A shares, the daily trading hours of US stocks are 6.5 hours, with no breaks in between. As soon as he opened the door of the trading room, Li Yuan saw Yao Yingsong playing with something on the table. Hearing the commotion here, Yao Yingsong immediately ran over and said, "Boss, I bought some food for everyone. It's still hot." How about you take everyone to eat something first? I'll do the other things. Li Yuan. Last week when Yeshen was in charge, there was nothing to eat. Not even a glass of hot water was poured. Is he hungry? I have been hungry for a long time. After all, I had eaten at 7 o'clock last night, and now it is 5 o'clock in the morning, a full 10 hours. He was hungry at 1 o'clock in the morning, but he couldn't eat at that time. Once you eat something, your entire reaction will be sluggish and your thinking will be restricted. Even when he was trading A shares, he ate very little for lunch, just to make sure he didn't feel too hungry. Traders are used to being hungry, especially those who play us stocks. If they don't have stomach problems, it means they are not qualified. Although they are just some bento boxes, most likely bought from a 24-hour convenience store, it is good to have hot meals at this point. It shows that Yao Yingsong got it back within half an hour. Come on, you guys can choose your own flavor, and just give me the remaining box. Li Yuan greeted the traders. Yes, we will eat in the company. The wind outside is relatively cold. After eating, just find a trash can and throw it in. I will clean up all the trash cans later, so it will not affect your work during the day. Yao Yingsong said quickly. Anyway, if you don't spend your own money, these meal companies will definitely reimburse you. It's impossible for him to just sort out a report after coming here, right? While others are working so hard, the boss goes to work in person, while he waits outside. He has no background and can only do many things on his own initiative. Even if the people here have little to do with him, and the places that Yeshen doesn't like, it won't be of much help to his career. But he can't go back to the capital now. No matter what, if he does things well here, he won't cause trouble for him in the future. Li Yuan took a box of lunch, sat next to it and started eating. Yao Yingsong did not organize the data immediately, but gave everyone a cup of hot water before leaving. The lunch box tasted very average, but in the eyes of a group of hungry people, it was particularly sweet. After eating something, you will feel better when you go to sleep. After he finished his meal, he came to the door of the trading room and took a look. This is the first time that Yao Yingsong has compiled this kind of data. In addition to the large number of transactions yesterday, the overall data is very messy. It has been half an hour and it is estimated that not even a third of it has been sorted out. He said, "Manager Yao, let's leave first. Remember to leave the key at the security desk when the time comes." Yao Yingsong immediately replied, "Okay, I may be busy until after 8 o'clock. By then, someone from the company will already be here. Just contact them directly." That's okay too. As Li Yuan and the others left, the entire company became quiet, with almost no sound. Yao Yingsong first integrated all the data and then made a table for statistics. Also include illustrations in the report. Then you have to summarize it specifically to prevent your leaders from seeing the key data. He didn't pay much attention to it at first, because the data he saw was incomplete and only part by part. But as the arrangement progressed, he felt more and more that something was wrong. Are many transactions profitable? There are also losing transactions, such as some short contracts that are losing money. But it seems that the loss is very small. It took him more than an hour to sort out all the overall data. He already felt that something was wrong with today's data. Last week's numbers were pretty average, with little movement. And today it's very volatile. There are transactions at more than 30 points, and transactions at more than a dozen points. All long orders are profitable, and nearly 2/3 of short orders are profitable. With the final data aggregation, everything became clear. Just 100 monthly passes are needed. Because it is double, the difference is only 50. Thank you all.